I'm sorry, I literally just went live because I was like, let me just go live. It's 5 o'clock, and you guys are gonna come in because that is my fault. I'm sorry, I literally just went live. There's an echo. Is that me?
Uh-uh.
Because I was like, let me just go live. It's 5 o'clock, and you guys are gonna come in because that. Can you hear me? I can't hear
Yes.
you. Now I see. Okay. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm good. I want to apologize.
No need.
I just knew I had already done what I needed to do. And I was trying to keep myself on a tight schedule today. And then
Hmm.
I'm sitting here getting my stuff together and I'm like, wait, no one is here yet? And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I apologize for that. How are you feeling today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am well. I am well. I am well. I see one person said hi. Hey Kendra. Hello, greetings. Can this meeting be on Zoom as well?
Hmm.
Uh I am not sure. StreamYard is kind of what I use right now. I know there are people who do streaming from multiple like platforms. So
Hmm.
today we're just gonna be using StreamYard, Kendra. Um, when I advance a little more and I get a little more, educated around those things, then perhaps. But today this conversation is solely on YouTube via StreamYard. StreamYard via YouTube. Which one is it? Um, but yes, I am so excited to have this conversation. I know there's just a lot going on right now in this particular space.
Hmm.
Not necessarily, I mean, not even counting outside of our personal lives. Um, but just in the space, in the black sphere of YouTube, or the space that most of us are familiar with, because we tend to support each other. One of the words that kept coming up, I kept hearing accountability, accountability, accountability. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Because I've been seeing so many expectations around what accountability should look like. And I'm just going to be honest. I think a lot of times we're off on what
Hmm.
accountability is. But I won't get into that because I actually think what we're asking for is something else, but we're using the word accountability.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And so I'm like, and words matter. Words matter, how we are defining or the words that we are using to articulate what we're looking for. It matters. The definition of words matter. And so I'm like, I don't know that it's in accountability we're looking for, particularly in this space, because let's be honest, it's almost impossible sometimes to hold people accountable in the way that we think they should be held accountable in this space. And I'm going to talk about why in a little bit as well, because truth be told, we all don't know each other on a personal level, right? That's a part of it too, And so, anyway, I know Rico should be joining us actually, your partner in crime.
Yeah. He said he was on
Um,
his way.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, DC Butler, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. If anyone is in here, I know it's only about six people here right now, but if you haven't subscribed as yet to the channel, but you just here, maybe supporting, just make sure you go back out and subscribe and come back in and join the conversation. We are going to open up the line today. I'm going to open up the line very early because I want to hear different perspectives on this. I just know what my perspective is on it. It could be wrong, it could be off.
Mhm.
And I'm open to coming to an understanding. Hey, Ashan is here with me. Hey sis, thanks for joining. Thanks for the support. Peace to you, my aunt. Greetings to you as well. It's always a pleasure. So Ashan,
Yes.
accountability.
Yes.
How have you been feeling with what's been going on?
Honestly, I don't like it. There's something, how people talk about something's unsettled in my spirit. Like when I hear the word accountability on the internet, it particularly bothers me. Peace to my
Uh-oh.
aunt. I see her in the chat, but it
Mhm.
definitely bothers me. I don't know why. it gets to me. It's like almost like a, we say a pet peeve in real life, but it's like an internet peeve because
Okay.
it's like people are saying accountability, and like you mentioned, it's not really accountability they're looking for because they don't understand the word.
Mhm.
Most of the times they're either looking for conformity or deference. Like they either want you to subscribe to their idea of how you should operate, that's the
Mhm.
conformity piece, or they just want you to like submit to their will.
Mhm.
It's not how they want you to conform, because there's sometimes you conform to an ideology that you subscribe to yourself. So that's like you're part of a social structure. But then the deference, they want you to be up under them. They want you to be doing what they want you to do. And I've seen
Correct.
both of those play out. So they want you to either be like I'm used to seeing people be, or be like I want you to be. And that's typically what most people are using accountability for. And the tip is in the word, the account. You have to hold someone to an account. In an account, there's a giver and a receiver. Like
Correct.
there's the bank, and then there's the person that has the account with the bank, and you
Mhm.
like you settle an account, like that's
Mhm.
an exchange. So anybody that you're not pouring into, you can't expect anything from. No, with no deposit there can't be any withdrawal. So anybody online that you're trying to hold to account that you have no relationship with, you're lying to yourself.
Mhm. 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 Hey Rico, thanks for
Hey,
joining us.
thank you. Sorry for being tardy. You know how CP
Right.
is.
No, I
Party to the
actually
party.
I apologize to Arshan, so I want to apologize to you as well that it was kind of my fault. I thought I sent the stuff already until like last minute, so it's fine. Thank you for being
Not a
here because you could be anywhere else. But
problem.
you're here, so thank you.
Happy to be here.
We just started the conversation. Ashan, you made a really good point, and I'm going to get into that. You talked about, how are you withdrawing? You're not depositing. You have these expectations of someone based on your own moral and value system, and it doesn't necessarily mean that that person operates by the same value system, or even the same moral compass as you. So what does that look like? And so with you, what you just mentioned, for me, what I'm seeing is, when I think of accountability, I feel like there has to be a standard. I have personal accountability. When I hold myself accountability, I am holding myself to what? The standard that I have established for my own life. So Rico could look and say, why are you doing all of that? I just don't think it takes all of that to be a good person, right? But that's because it's my standard. It's not Rico's standard, right? So Rico could just say, I just don't know that it takes all of that. But for me, it's like, no, I'm holding myself accountable to a standard that I have established. Now, in these spaces, what I think the only time we can really hold people accountable is, for example, it is your platform and you have established the rules for that conversation for that particular platform. And someone comes in and they violate those rules. Rules do not protect us. Laws do not
Mhm.
protect us, right? What they do is they provide a consequence for when that particular rule or law is violated. Why do I say that? That means that I can have a rule, and Rico could come in. I could say, we don't use the N word on my platform. It doesn't stop Rico from using the N word on my platform. Now, I could give Rico a warning, and I could come back and say, that's it, Rico, if you do it again, I am going to knock you out. Not knock you out, but knock you off the panel. Okay? That's a warning. He know that. So if he continues to use it, I interpret it as there's a lack of respect there. Or sometimes it's not even that the person don't mean to disrespect you, just kind of rolls off their tongue. That happens as well. But I have a responsibility to hold the standard, right? And I boot Rico out. It is not personal to Rico. It's personal to my platform and my space and the standard that I've set for this particular space. So I just wanted to I know I said a mouthful, but that there's personal standards, personal accountability. But if there's no standard and there's no code of conduct, what are you holding that person to outside of your own personal standard? There's nothing else. Now, if we come as a group where you go to your job has certain things that you have to follow. Everyone in that job has to follow it. So when Rico violates it and we work for the same company, I could report Rico. I could hold Rico accountable because there's an established rule, right? For us who are working in that agency as a collective. In these spaces, it's a little difficult. So I'm gonna go to Rico. Rico, welcome.
Happy to be here.
What are your thoughts? Sean was just sharing, we were saying that there's a lot going on right now in the YouTube space, I feel like we have waves, we have waves. Sometimes we good. There's a moment of peace. And then we dip. And right now, a hot word, a hot topic, or a word that I keep hearing getting thrown around is accountability. So I wanted to come and have a conversation about it. What are your thoughts about what's happening and accountability?
Well, I know I've spoken to me and Arshawn, we've talked about it before. And my belief is firmly rooted in accountability must have consequences. And if you can't apply consequences, you're not holding anybody accountable. So if, for example, if I'm not on your platform and we're on a shared space, and I'm dropping the N-bomb and you don't like it, you can tell me, but so what? It's just, I call that showing displeasure, dislike. But the accountability, if I'm on your platform, the consequence is I'm going to boot you off my platform.
Yes.
I always say the ultimate accountability in society is called prison. So when someone commits a crime, the trial is not the accountability. The accountability is the imprisonment because we apply a punishment for doing something of displeasure. As you said on job, what's the accountability? Termination. There's a consequence for it. But in all this normal, the back and forth verbiage, and if I'm mad and I do a reaction video to you and you do a reaction video to me, I'm holding Hanifa accountable. No, I'm just showing my displeasure, because if I can't apply any consequence to your action, we call it throwing a hissy fit. He just threw a hissy fit, he showed displeasure. And I mean, we do that. So even in places where I can't apply consequences, if it's an offense to me, I have an obligation still to speak out about it and not be silent. So I tell people, use the word, you can say, you checked me. Okay, I'll take that. But you didn't hold me accountable unless I deemed it worthy that if you tell me to stop using the N-bomb, and as it goes to what you said, self-accountability. And I think Hanifa's right. I'm holding myself accountable. Hanifa didn't hold me accountable. Unless I'm on your platform,
yes,
you kick me out, for violating that rule. There has to be a consequence. Minus the consequence, I hate when people use that word, because I'm like, you're not holding them accountable. Yes, you are making it known, but if they continue to do it, that's all you did. But usually accountability is something that will make the person stop the action and do something to, usually prison. The reason for prison was you broke a law, we locked you up. You know what's going to happen next time, you won't do it again. But if we don't lock you up and I'm at the store stealing, you let me go, I'm going to go back next week and steal some more. And you let me go, I'm going to go back. Rico, I seen you steal it. Don't do that no more. Okay. And I'm going to come back next week and do it again. You don't stop the behavior short of a consequence. So, in these spaces, people throw out that term, and I just think it's wildly inaccurate.
So I have a question for you guys. In holding each other accountable, how much attention should we give to gender? Like, go ahead, Arshawn.
No, I mean, honestly, all of it should be paid attention to. Like, we need to watch, like, boundaries are important. We need to have boundaries, establish boundaries. Gender is a boundary. There's a division between men and women. That's a boundary. It's a firm, established, provable, demonstrable, scientific boundary. There is a difference there. And you can't just easily cross between the two. You're either one or the other. And there's varying degrees of, shades that people are arguing about. But typically, you're born one or the other. So that's a boundary. Like we got color. I was born as a Black American. I'll never be a white American. That's a boundary. You know what I'm saying? So there are firm boundaries that we need to understand and acknowledge. So gender, race, all of them. So when we talk about accountability, and when I talked about having an account, the reason some of us, and I say men should speak to men, is because as a man, me and Rico, We have a small investment in each other as men because we have some semblance of a shared experience.
Mhm.
Even if our path hasn't been the same, we know the world as black men sees us in much the same vein. So if me or Rico run into a random person in the street and they see a black man, me and Rico would know, like, oh, we know what they're thinking about us, or we know some of the stereotypes they may hold. So that's a small investment. So I may be like, hey, black man, can you pull your pants up? You know what I'm saying? Because you know how they're looking at us out here. Where somebody else saying that, it might be a lot more offensive because they don't have any investment. Not only are they a stranger, they are foreign to my experience. They have not lived on
Mhm.
my side of the boundary. They have not walked in my shoes. So yes, gender is another one. I can never tell Hanifa much about being a woman because I've
Mhm.
never experienced her side of that boundary. So the only thing I can talk about is my experience with women, but I can't hold you accountable to womanhood because I've never experienced womanhood. So that's why a lot of times we need to acknowledge those boundaries and respect them because we violate boundaries when we're trying to hold accountability across them.
Yeah, I'm let me just check in, and I'm gonna come right back to that because you said something. OG Patrice, greetings. I posted the link twice. Feel free to come up, guys. Rico and Arshan and we are just having a conversation around accountability today. I do want to hear all perspectives. If we're missing something, I'm going to post the link again in the chat for anyone that wants to join the conversation. Knowledge and relationships is in the building. Salute to everyone. Salute to you too, sir. Welcome and thank you for the support. If you guys have not hit the like button as yet, or you have not subscribed, please head back out, hit the like button and the subscription button, and let's get back into it. Okay, so you talked, the reason why I asked that is because a lot of conversations that I've seen, probably even been a part of, there's a lot on where men would be like, I don't care if you're a woman, right? And then you will hear women say, I don't care if you're a man. And I think that understanding how we filter things as far as genders, um how we kind of like process, information. All of this is important in communication. Now if I'm coming into the conversation and I want to battle, then that's a different thing. But if I want to come
Mhm.
to a resolve, all of these factors are important whether I like it or not. Okay. If I already, and I'm going to get into this in a minute, but I want us to talk a little bit about when people choose to hold each other accountable. I'm going to touch on that a little bit because I see a lot of that. I'm like, no, do not engage. That person is at their peak. What are you doing? And I think sometimes it depends. If I'm coming in with love and I'm looking for a resolve with my brother, I have to be aware of how I'm coming at him. My tone is important. The words I use, they are important. If Rico makes a statement, it's not okay for me to say, "Oh, that's dumb," right after he makes the statement. You know what I mean? Now I could talk in general and say, when people say this, I think that's stupid. But if Rico says something and I say, "Oh, what he just said is so dumb," right? All of these things matter in how the conversation is going to move forward. It is. Okay, so when we talk about accountability, we have to have personal accountability entering into these conversations oftentimes. And what we're doing is we're leaving it at the door because we don't respect each other. So Rico, I'm gonna let Miss OG Patrice up. Rico, how much do you think? I see you, JP. Peace. She says, peace and light at Hanifa family, fellas, and chat. How's your spirit? My spirit is good, JP. It's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for passing through. If you want to join the panel, I'm going to continue to post the link. You're free to come up. Miss OG Patrice, let me not have you backstage, but too much longer. Welcome to the panel. How are you?
Good afternoon. How's everyone, or evening, depending on what part of the world you're in?
Yeah,
Doing
no,
well.
I'm good. I'm afternoon over here. Good
Okay,
afternoon. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Happy Friday, everyone. Is everybody good? Peace to the chat.
Doing good, OG
Good,
Patrice. How are
good.
you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for asking.
So I'm gonna come to Miss OG Patrice in a minute, but I want Rico to speak on because I saw him shaking his head like how much how much do you think we should pay attention to gender as far as accountability goes? How important is gender?
Gender's important, but it's not. It does have some sway, but you can't be afraid to have conversations or to, as I say, I don't use the word accountability, or to show displeasure or check someone, which even still sound a little stupid, simply because of their gender. Let me first touch on a point where you said, and Arshawn, know I've recently in the last couple of days I've been in trouble because I do believe some statements are so egregiously harmful and dangerous that a person can say it, and I'm not going to generalize it. I'm going to, because I mean, there are some statements that are being said that people are verbalizing out of their mouth, and everybody in the audience is in shock and they're like too shocked to move. And when I hear it, no, that person is stupid, because it can be, there can, and when we let it go and no one says anything, if someone makes a blatantly racist or sexist or religious statement and no one says anything about it, we let it permeate in the ether. Because there'll be someone who may be in the audience that'll be like, well, nobody pushed back, so it's okay. And I'm not even going to push back in a generalized way. I need to push back so that the audience can know that that was a stupid statement, and this person said it. And if people like them repeat it, you need to know it for when you see it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even a religious man, but I think there's a passage in the Bible like, learn to know things when you see it. So, I mean, that's very important. So I don't try to make a habit of it. Mm-hmm. There are exceptions where you have to go directly at the speaker and challenge them to even if challenging, give them an opportunity to clean it up, backtrack, double down, triple down, do whatever they want to do. Then I'll be like, I know you when I see you. You know, if it's that way. I give, when it's the gender thing, I think one of the hardest conversations I've heard of a recent between men and women is over things like equal rights, which is crazy. When that conversation comes up, and all I hear on the men's side is women are not equal, women are not equal. I'm like, but equal rights they should have. Mm-hmm. So I find that to be a tough conversation to navigate. I talk to women differently, but if the offense is there, like I might shout at, or raise my voice at Arshawn, I don't think I should be raising my voice at you, but I'll be saying the same thing. I can bite quietly or I can bite loudly. Mm-hmm. But if both of you say the same thing and you both need to get bit, it's going to be a biting comment. But I'll try to do it, and mainly with females, especially if I'm not, I'll just say it and be real short and curt and move on. With a man, I might dig in and lay in and put my foot on their neck a little bit and let them know I'm not the one to play that game with.
So Rico, I know knowledge and relationships. So I'm gonna come right back to something that you said, and I'm holding it. I have my note here. But I want to acknowledge knowledge and relationship because I know he don't have long, and I want him to come in and just greet us. How are you today? Knowledge and relationships. How are you doing today? Welcome.
I'm doing pretty good, Hanifa. Thank you for allowing me to join your platform. Arshawn, Rico, OG Patrice, salute to everyone here. Thank you so much. Yes. I'll make it short. I think that when it comes to accountability, the lies that lies behind trying to hold someone accountable is based off your motives. So sometimes people will say, hey, I want you to hold this person accountable, but you don't really know the backstory. They'll give you like a surfacey type of story, and that goes for both men and women. You never know what's going on fully on the other side until you actually gather all the facts and then you put two to two together. But yeah, I think they do this only when it's like convenient for them, so they could feel good and they could feel self-righteous. But the moment that you decide, well, I can't hold this person accountable on your behalf because I don't know the full scoop, then they play into the so-called like guilt trip. And then they will want to make you feel bad because it's like an expectation. And I guess if you want to compare this to like male and well, men and women relationships, I know men are usually pressured a lot to try to, hold themselves accountable. And then sometimes I want to say like they're pressured to hold women accountable,
Mhm.
but I feel like when it's like maybe an argument between another man and another woman, it's like it's expected. Like you may not even know the lady. You're just probably walking down the street. But if a man sees a guy, curse a woman out, going irate, it's like it's something in us that makes us feel like, man, I need to challenge myself to hold myself accountable to protect this woman, but not knowing the facts that maybe she was the one that got the man upset.
Mm.
So it's very, very hard, like when it comes to accountability, when it comes to um for both men and women. Um so that's all I have to say about that part when I hear about accountability.
Okay. Thank you for that. But what I got from what you just said, and
Hmm.
that stood out for me, I wrote
Sure.
down motives matter because, and I want to
Yes.
get in. I'm going to come to Ochi Patrice, and then I'm going to come back to Rico. But I want to get into eventually the word that we're probably looking for, and it's not really accountability. I'm going to go ahead and say I think oftentimes we're asking for punishment, not accountability. That's what we're asking for. And then we're asking for receipts of that punishment. So I
Hmm.
want Ashan, I say, I hold him accountable to Rico. Okay. And Rico might say to me, I had a conversation already with him behind closed doors, right? We already had a conversation. But what I'm really asking Rico to do is no longer affiliate himself with Ashan. That's what I'm asking for. When you really listen to what you're like, okay, so he's holding accountable is to say, hey, Ashan, that's not how we conduct ourselves with men as men. That's not how we talk to women. Meaning that he's saying to him, men have a standard, and you are not holding your end up. So this is, let's talk about this. So going forward, this is what you need to do different. That's accountability, technically. Okay. But what we're asking for is when Ashan comes back and we see him on another panel and he's still coming out his face to woman, right? And then, or he's on Rico's platform, we say Rico is not holding Ashan accountable. What we're saying is that Rico is not feeling as strong as I do towards Ashan for what Ashan did. We are saying Rico needs to punish Ashan so that I could feel better about what Ashan did to me. That's really what's happening. And I'm like, but that's not how this works. So if you're saying, I want to see a lynch, I want to be a part of a lynching mob. Okay. I want to see a lynch and I need him to be, if you want, then you need to state that. But asking for accountability doesn't necessarily means that somebody is going to hold the person accountable and then cut them off. It doesn't mean I'm going to check you and then no longer associate with you. That's not how that works. But OG Patrice, what do you think about what we're discussing right now, Mama? And I'm going to bring my aunt up. I see my aunt.
Interesting conversation because
Mhm.
what I'm learning in these spaces is that you know that's the $64,000 word right now, right? Or $100,000 word, whatever price you want to put on it, is accountability. Accountability. That's all I'm hearing, and especially as someone as an elder as myself that literally tried to do that in the most productive and loving way. Um, I've only seen where in three incidents, I would say that I privately, and this is what I choose to do. I choose to do it privately because I think that when you do it privately with someone, and like you said, it's a way to do anything. It's a way to talk to people, your tone, your texture, and you explain to them the reason and why you feel like, uh, you know, this person, and I don't even think I used the word uh accountability. I just said, hey, you did this, and I don't think it was right. I think that you were wrong in this incident, and even though the other person was wrong, two wrongs don't make a right.
Mhm.
So that's kind of how I went at it. I said, I'm not saying that the other person wasn't wrong. I'm just saying your part in it was wrong too. And then I do remember saying something like, so if we are going to hold each other accountable, and
Mhm.
this was a female, you
Okay.
know, I said, and as someone older than you, then I think it's only right that I call you privately and I say this to you.
Mhm.
That didn't go so well because, first of all, I think even when you call someone to accountability, they don't want to acknowledge and be accountable for it. They don't,
Mm.
because
What do you
it
think
was
that
just
you don't think the relationship matters, OG Patrice? In that
absolutely.
case, yeah.
Absolutely. And this person I had a good rapport with. So I
Okay.
thought that, you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
thought that it would go over a little bit smoother, but it wasn't a combative or argumentative thing. It's just that the person didn't think they did anything wrong. So when you try to hold a person to accountability, or say to the person what part you thought they played in it that was wrong, and they say, I didn't do anything wrong,
Mhm.
what are you going to do against that? But then turn around and say, well, but don't stop holding me accountable.
Yeah,
So now I feel like if I come at you again, it's going to be the same thing.
yeah,
Because
I
if you
agree.
are in total denial that you didn't do anything wrong, that it's like I'm not coming to you anymore, because you're going to feel you don't do anything wrong. Now, I had two other incidents, and they were with males,
Mhm.
and they went just fine. And I found that I got a better communication with the man than I did with the men than I did with the women. The women, they was more not combative, because it wasn't a combative argument. It was just a denial of wanting to be held to the accountability, even denial of even thinking that they did something wrong. So for me, having a conversation, breaking it down, and you still don't see it. I don't know if you genuinely don't see it, or you just don't choose to not see it. So,
Mm.
you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
my thing was like, I'm lesson learned there. Not not going to do that. But it went better with the men. Both acknowledged it. One said, I won't do it again. The other one said the same thing, but of course they did it again. But again, but at least I got a better response from the
So I
men in the space with
the
it.
reason
So
the reason why I asked about the relationship, because that's something I am seeing a lot of too. People, I think it's knowledge and relationship mention like pretty much that your experience with that person, if you have history with them, all of these things are factors that matter in how the accountability conversation goes. This is why I mentioned it, but you said you had a good rapport with that person.
I,
One
I
of the,
I will say this, Hanifa,
Mhm.
rapport, but let's be real about the YouTube streets.
Yes.
We are saying this word accountability. We have good rapport with people on these platforms, but we don't really know these people. We
Okay.
don't really have a relationship,
Mhm.
like personal, with these people.
Mhm.
But we're saying this word that is abound to people that have personal relationships.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
then when you come to them, they feel like you really don't know me like that to be coming to me like that, but I'm going to use the word anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what I was. What that's actually what I was getting to. Rapport and relationships are still two very different things, very different. And like someone can say, I have a good rapport. It seems like we get along fine in this space, but now you overstepping your boundaries. I think Rico used the word check by trying to check me, right? And then the other thing I've noticed is I don't know why. Okay, if someone doesn't have any respect for you, I don't care what angle you come from. All right, peace. I don't care what angle you come from. They're not going to hear what you're saying. They have no respect for you. And I think there's a lot of that in these spaces as well. But I want to make sure that I greet my aunt. And I also see JP in the back. Welcome, my aunt. Welcome, JP, to the platform. How are you guys feeling? How are you ladies feeling, actually?
I'm feeling well. Thank you for letting me come up.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like a dingbat. So let me get all of my accountability and apologies out the way real quick, if you don't mind.
No, we fine.
Linsky, baby, I love you like fat kids love cookies and sundaes. The name slip up was really and truly just my fingers. Arshawn, I see your nose getting all scrunchy with me because I tried not to say it, and then I was just hoping that a little bit wouldn't be too bad. And then damn, Danique is just so... I love y'all. I love y'all so much. Hanifa, thank you for having me up here. My aunt, haven't seen you in a while. OG Patrice, girl, we might as well just, get a studio right next to each other. It's nice to see all of you up here together. I'm happy to be back in these YouTube streams. Y'all, I done figured out so much new stuff when it comes to it's nice to be here, and I'm gonna let y'all keep going, but I'll share my thoughts in a moment.
Yeah, you're fine. I see some new people came in. Loverboy Lensky, I see you in the chat. I miss you daily, but I also know that you said that you've been taking care of your mental health. So whatever you need to do to stay with us, you make sure you do that, sir. And if we could be of any help, if I could be of any help, don't be shy. Please reach out if you just need someone to talk to.
Yes, we love Loverboy.
Yes, we do.
Love
I
him.
see Alkema says peace and blessings. So I want the ladies just got in. Rico, I just have one question for you, okay? And I want to hear from my aunt and JP. So if you could just respond very quickly to this. You talked about when I said it's how we're talking to each other. So you mentioned like if something that someone said is dumb, that you're just gonna say it's egregious, like you don't care. And I wrote down, why not just counter what they said? Why do you have to call them out their name?
In particular, it's only a single individual I've ever gotten to this level with.
Okay.
And I will tell you this is because of the fact that you've countered their arguments repeatedly, and evidently they're so dug in. So it's clear to me, and here's the thing, a dozen people have countered their arguments with facts, and they still come back. So it's clear to me this person doesn't respect the dozen of us. I'm the one that's going to finally disrespect them as well. So the other 11 may choose to sit there and go, well, it doesn't matter, and that's fine. But when I get to a point where it's like, and I'm talking about specifically, repeatedly, nonstop, I'm like, I'm going to meet it with the same level of energy, because that's the only thing where at least the shock and awe, the harm that they're doing, I'm going to put it back, because I think at a minimum, I don't want to do harm in these streets, but if I see people perpetrating harm on the community, if I have to hurt you back so you can lessen the harm, then that's what I'll do. If I have to hurt you back, because if just talking to you and you're still spewing stuff out to the ether that's harmful, just saying some really outlandish stuff, then you need to be hurt a little bit so you can slow down. If that's all it works. And sometimes, unfortunately, that's why cops got guns. You can't just talk to the bad guys. Sometimes you got to shoot a few of them. I mean, I'm just saying, if you're dealing with evil, you cannot always combat evil with love.
I understand what you're trying to say, Rico. I do to a certain extent.
Yes.
To a certain extent. I think your approach is one of, if you're hurting someone that I love and care about, and I'm telling you to stop and you don't stop, then I have every right to punch you in the back of the head to make you stop. I get what you're saying.
I'm done talking.
Yeah, up to a
That's it.
certain extent. I feel like that's very military and mannish of you, but that that's another
But
conversation.
it's after the conversation though,
I got
Hanisha,
you.
because it's you tried talking and talking and talking and talking and communicating respectfully over and over and over. You know, I know Quakers that'll say that's enough. I'm done.
But that's not accountability. Then once you do
No,
that, it crosses
no,
over into something else. It's really the point I was trying to make.
no,
Um,
that just makes me feel good. I don't
oh,
care.
see,
I'm
that's
not,
an ego. That's an ego thing.
at that point, yes.
Yeah.
If I keep
So
poking you, you get to your breaking point.
yeah. So I have my aunt and JP just join us. We got some other ladies. So we got 3 women on the panel now. Well, 4. We outnumber you guys. Yay! Not really. I love balance, guys. But my aunt, I know you came in before JP. What are your thoughts around accountability? Specifically about of what you've been observing in this space.
Okay. So there's a few things. So the first thing is when we are telling others to hold someone else accountable, or we're saying we're holding others accountable, it comes to a few things. We're saying what I wouldn't do. That's one thing that we're saying. And or what when we're holding ourselves accountable, it's like what I shouldn't have done. So a lot of times it's kind of like an inner projection, like they're doing something that I would have never done. And so now I want to hold that person accountable because I would not have behaved in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it comes to a lot of times Black men and Black women, and we hear a lot of peace, brother, priest Danique, um, um, when we hear the whole concept of Black men saying, well, Black women need to be held accountable and vice versa, we we have to something that when we were in our couple therapy session and we were talking about the needs, like basic needs that we all need in order to have successful relationships. So and within Black or the African centered, we have the 7 basic needs. So one thing that was very telling was when they were saying that with Black men, it's usually 85% of them need significance, is significance, variety, and what was the other one? I think it's significance, variety, and it might have been certainty. So security.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we were discussing this, it just kind of hit me that that's what we're seeing. We're seeing that a lot of people in yes, very good, Quantum. What we're seeing in these YouTube streets and on social media
Yeah.
is the main thing is significance. Why? Because as Black men, they have been told over and over again that they're not significant in the world, in the community. So we're seeing that they're lacking significance. So they have to, they it's a sense of, I need to feel important. I need to feel like, my self-worth, and all of this different kind of things are coming to play. But what gets in the way is that that your significance is also not is going to battle with your needs. I'm going to put it this way. Your needs are going to battle with someone else's needs. So needs change from day to day. So, yesterday I might have needed to go to stretch, but today I need to go walk outside. Our needs change from day to day. So what's happening is, because we're fluctuating, and we as people and women have different needs. Most of our needs are, like security, love, connection. We have different needs. So when we see someone and we are what's the word I'm looking for? We are looking at it as in a certain way. So I might look at Arshawn and I'll say Arshawn is angry, but I'll actually Arshawn is just sad, like,
Mhm.
but it's coming off as anger.
Mhm.
And then Arshawn might be looking at me and saying, "You're jealous." But in all honesty, it's just an insecurity. I have insecurity. And so, these different things are coming into play, and we are not looking at others' needs. Now, when it comes to holding other people accountable in this space, that's going to be very hard because we don't know anyone's private lives. We don't know what happens when they shut that camera off. All we know is what is happening in front of the camera. And the
Yes.
last thing I'll say, and I'll be quiet for a while, is that when it comes to how we feel personally about holding others accountable, it does start when someone starts attacking someone's character and who they are. It does, you do have to question the people who do continue to align with certain people, and certain people ask questions like, well, you say that this action is wrong, but why do you continue to align yourself with that person if you think those actions are wrong? So I cannot tell a person, to stop. I can only tell a person and people in my personal life, right? I can tell my husband, I don't want you messing with that dude no more because he
Mhm.
disrespected me. I can
Mhm.
do that. And he can hold that person accountable. He can say certain things. And then if they don't, they still continue to disrespect me, then he can say, I'm removing myself. If he did not remove himself from that person's life, then I would have to question our relationship. Why are you continuing to align yourself or be around someone who is continuing to disrespect me?
Mhm.
So, but when it comes to these spaces, we're telling each other, it's becoming cliquish. I mean, that's
Yes.
what it's becoming. It's
Mhm.
becoming a lot of different cliques, and then you do have to you start questioning. People start questioning. Well, I thought this person was, for me, but no, they are showing me something different. So when it comes to accountability in spaces, I don't necessarily take it for 100% serious when we're
Okay.
talking about accountability,
Mhm.
because I can only take it serious when I turn the cameras off and I'm now talking to that person one on one or face to face, and I can say, hey, why are you doing this? Why are you continuing to talk to this person? What is it that I don't see? But Mod speaks. I
Okay.
always say accountability starts with self. So I have to hold myself accountable. I have to understand why do I feel these? Why am I attracting these energies around me? It's a reflection of me. So, that's all I'll say for right now.
Okay. Okay. You said a whole lot. And no. You said a lot, and there's a lot in what you said, and I don't even know where to begin. But I want to go ahead and ask JP's thoughts, and then we could kind of start to tackle some of the points you made as well. So JP, sorry, what's your thoughts around accountability, in particular in like social media spaces such as the one we're currently on, what you've observed? What are your thoughts around accountability?
So Rico, I ain't want to see your face anyway with them glasses on. I like you with your eyes out and your drink in your hand. Nah, treating me bad on a doggone Friday afternoon. Anyway, sorry. I don't know how not to be messy, y'all, especially now in life. But when it comes to accountability, I tend to hold myself accountable for being a 46-year-old teenager at times. I Accountability to me is has been a requirement of my life for a long time, and I've always kind of gone on a journey of words. Hanifa, I fully understand that. And at some point, I realized that what people, especially in this YouTube space, seem to be looking for is atonement, and they want to know everything about you so that then they can make you atone for your sins, or
Mm.
make your actions something that they can use as what's the words? As something that they can hold up in front of their children and say, see, don't be like that. Or say, see, I was successful because I wasn't like that. Now, behind closed doors, they have their own demons and issues and things that they're working with. And to be honest, I see that in content creators by the names that they choose for themselves. It kind of makes it evident because we're given our names as children. We marry into our names as women anyway, or men. We stand up proud for the name that we were given, and then when you become a creator, though, you choose that name. You choose why it exists and what it's about, and only you know until you start to share. So when you look at that name, you might want to look at yourself before you start projecting onto other people what it is. And my name is JP, the Aspiring Matriarch. I knew my family needed one, and then I looked around YouTube and I was like, well, the mamas out here, some of them act like the children out here. So I'm gonna get my act right, and just try to be balanced or in how I speak. So I do want to address one more thing, and then I promise I'll be done. When it comes to the gender thing, for me, I try to think of it in that way. How would I want someone to speak to my son or daughter? And then because I am not a fella, I try to use gentlemen's words to frame the narrative and then create the conversation from there. But that's just me. I can't tell anyone how to run their platform. But yeah, I think that it's in this YouTube space, it's more about, making you be a good whatever it is you're supposed to be according to the YouTube guidelines or the whatever platform owners guidelines versus having actual accountability or conversations about how to be different people.
Yeah, you made a good point too, and I'm gonna open up with this question, but you talked about, like, I think my artist who mentioned the clicks. So it's sort of like, this is how this particular clique conducts themselves. And if you want to be a part of this clique, this is how you must behave, or this is how, you must speak about certain subjects, or, you know what I mean? These are the people you should work with, like, and if you don't, I think you use the word atonement. Ashan, I didn't catch your word, but my word was punishment. What was your word for instead of accountability, we should use the word what?
I can't remember what initially I said, but it's mostly, for me, it's control. It's a form of control.
Okay, I like that too. So far, all of us have said it is not really accountability that we're asking for when we're so-called asking for it. We're asking for things like atonement, punishment, control. So when Sean and Ma'at have their behind-the-scene conversation, I need Sean to publicly spank Ma'at, so that that is his song, right? Let me flip that. I need my aunt to publicly
It's Friday, y'all.
I need my aunt to publicly
Mr. Mayat, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. Y'all. Dang it. Y'all get me off this doggone
it's
internet.
All right. It's all right. I'm pulling myself back in. Let me use the two guys. I need Rico to publicly.
I ain't spanking him either.
I need Rico to publicly crucify, right? Or punish Ashan, so that me can feel better about how Ashan made me feel in the conversation. I don't care that you're holding them accountable privately. I don't care about that. One of the guys you guys talked about, when you come on to people's, Rico, when you come on to people's platform. So all you guys are here. I think that everyone here kind of have an idea of how I carry myself. So there's not really much that I need to say, right? There's just certain things you're not going to come in my space and do, right? Like, I'm one of those people where my energy just proceeds, like, that's just how it works, okay, in life and because I make sure that that's established. So when you come in here, most people, if they're observing, they're like, okay, so this is how she conducts herself. So if you come into this space and you do something, you can quickly say, well, I didn't know that was the rules. right? That would be on me, because I should maybe say we don't use we don't call each other the N word on this platform. Okay, so when Rico comes in and he calls Ashan and N word or whatever, and I boot Rico off, now I can follow up and say, hey Rico, going forward, I love having you in the space, but if you could please, I could do that behind closed doors. Now Rico might never be let back up in this conversation, but it doesn't mean that he may not be on my panel again in another conversation, because we had a conversation behind closed doors. I am very funny about that, because I feel like we start to tiptoe into cancel culture, right? Which I think that Black people, in the way that we try to cancel each other, we just can't afford to. And I'm just being honest about that. We really can't, unless it's like egregious acts against children, and you're abusive towards women, you're abusive towards men, like things like that. But having your own opinion, having a different opinion, I don't know about that. I think it depends on what's being said. And Rico, I know the one person you're talking about, but I wanted to kind of segue into after listening to all that you guys said. There was a question.
May I say something?
Sure, OG, sure, you could jump right in.
I think the beauty in, if you want to hold someone accountable, or tell someone about something that you think that they're wrong on. Delivery is everything, but I think genuinely, when you do it behind closed doors, and when you do it and nobody else knows, that's when I think it's genuinely coming from a genuine place. You're not trying to call them out. You're not trying to put them on Front Street. You're not trying to demean them or make them feel away in front of other people, because you're actually addressing it behind closed doors, and you're doing it in a respectable way, that you're having a conversation with the person. So, and it's genuine. If it's coming from a genuine heart, I don't think it's anything wrong with that, to be able to do that. But like I'm realizing now, though, like I said, in these spaces, is that I had to ask myself, I really don't know these people like that. I've made relationships in these spaces, and I like people as far as for what I see and what they see of me. And I have to be real about that. But like you said, it's very cliquish. People want to pick and choose. And if you don't be on this side, we ain't rocking with you. And if and all of this is going on in these spaces right now, right? So when you do have a certain reverence for someone, I should say, as gotten to know them in these spaces,
Yeah.
having a way to tell them, to me, means everything. And especially if it's coming from a genuine place. But it doesn't matter if they're not going to receive it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
what I decided to do is, I may say something like, if I genuinely here or up on a panel and someone that I feel is being respected, that's just who I am. I'm gonna say, don't disrespect the sister like that, or don't disrespect the brother like that. That's not cool, But I'm no longer going to, quote unquote, hold someone accountable, because it's just not what my experience with it is just that it's not what we really want. We would rather, like you said, Hanifa, cancel each other. And we real quick to do that to each other before we would even do it to someone of another race. We're real quick to do it with each other. Now, I have seen that in this space, and we're real quick to put each other on Front Street, to dox each other, to, do a lot of backbiting and different things. We're real quick to do that with each other, as opposed to any other racial counterparts. We do that a lot, and that's what I'm seeing in this space, that is becoming very unhealthy for us as a people, and very, very detrimental to our culture and community. And we're already on life support with so many other bigger things that we issues and problems that we have. So when you have these little things that we're canceling each other and not rocking with each other because you mad, I'm mad at you because you rock with this person and you need to be mad at them because I'm mad at them. It's a lot of that going on, you know. So it's, yeah, for me it's like, okay, number one, I'm grown, and no one is going to tell me that I shouldn't rock with this person because you're mad at this person, or because this person is coming after somebody that you like, or you want me to not like them. Like, what are we in high school? Like for real, guys, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But to literally cancel someone, to literally belittle or try to put them on Front Street on a panel in front of people, it's not cool. So it's
Yeah.
it's it's delivery and where your heart is with how you're telling it to the person that should matter more than anything.
Mm.
I do. I just want to say one thing to that, because I do think what is happening is because um there are people who are doing things publicly for the world to see and tearing people down publicly. They're also wanting the accountability to happen publicly. So
Correct.
it is a difficult one for me because I have seen where people have torn down people publicly, torn down their character, their image, and then we live in a society where we just believe everything we hear. We just believe it just because certain people are saying it. And so then it's just like, what? And I guess this is just a question I have. What are we supposed to be doing as a community when our own are tearing us down in front of the world, not just in front of each other, but in front of the whole world? How do we actually deal with that as a community or as a people, or even as content creators, just as content creators, especially when you know that some of the things that they're saying are not true? So,
Well, Maya, I do agree with you because something happened to me on the panel, and I felt that it should have been the apology should have been on the panel as well. So I agree with you on that.
mhm.
When the disrespect comes and you're on the panel with me and say something to me disrespectful in front of the same people that we're like if for instance if it happened up here and Rico did it, then I feel like yeah, I agree, on said panel or whatever, you need to extend that apology. I do agree with that part of it. But
So I want to put. Oh, sorry, OG. Go ahead. I apologize.
Oh no, I just said, but like, say if you witnessed something and it didn't get resolved, but you're trying, you know that someone was wrong, then yeah, you can, if you have their phone number, you can call them and talk about it. Or if you have their email, you can, send them an email discussing it or something like that. But because a lot of people spazzes out a lot too on these panels,
Mm-hmm.
you got to ask yourself, am I going to make it worse, or am I going to make it, any better if I say something on the panel while it's happening, or maybe I should just let it cool down and address it at a later time too.
So I want to put my ads question to the guys, and Rico, you could go ahead first because I see you. Go ahead.
Well, the only thing I'm saying, I want us to be clear here, because sometimes like, for one, I don't have a problem with cancel culture. I'm not a canceler. I don't have a problem with cancel culture because I believe there are people and things that need to be silent.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that we live in a country of First Amendment rights, this, that, whatever. But all, like I said, all opinions are not equal. Everybody's First Amendment. People will take advantage and abuse the ability to speak when they should not have a voice, when there's harm. And I know we live in this space. We want to give everybody, because you're worried about if we silence them, then we'll silence the positive. And I get that. So, but what I see people are doing is people who are clearly toxic, they use that as a defense mechanism for them to further spew their garbage into the ether. So they'll say the most outlandish stuff and be like, see, black people are always trying to silence me. So I always tell them is, if you think you're Dave Chappelle and you can say something and you're Teflon Don, then you go ahead and do it. But we have a right, if you're going to say something reckless, expect to get drugged. It happens every day. People get drugged for telling a terrible joke. So if I tell the worst joke in the world and the internet dragged me, I should have thought before I said it. So if you say something racist about my community, I'm going to drag you till I can't drag anymore.
I get your point.
And when I hear it, and I'm on a panel, it's important for me to, if Arshawn said it, I will come out in the moment, because as much as if he says it, me calling him out or me checking him, it's not changing his mind. But what I am doing is I am publicly affirming my position. That's important as well. Not only am I in opposition to something he said, I need to publicly say, I don't agree with what I don't have to do it. I'm just trying to explain how I feel sometimes about certain topics, that I want people to know what my stance is. So he can leave with his forever. They'll know when they see me through these streets, Rico not the one to play with when it comes to that. Because I don't want to be on somebody else's panel and they pull that. I'm letting the world know, you're not going to talk about my people in front of me. Now, I'm not going around checking everybody's stream to clean up. But if you're on a panel with me, you better watch your mouth about my people. That's it. That's it. And I want that to be known as much for me as it may be me bumping heads with somebody about that. If you feel strongly about
people, now people like that, because people like that continuously do that, Rico.
Yeah,
I don't want to be in the same space with them. Period.
And when I come in that space,
just how I get down.
They need to know who I am. Like, oh, I show him, and I'm bringing that energy. That's it. Because if you're going to be you, I'm going to be me.
Okay, so I want to because when we talk about cancel culture, and I want to give Ashana a chance to speak to what my asked, and as well as JP. But when we talk about cancel culture, I struggle with it because I feel like it often leaves no room for reconciliation. It leaves no room for growth. So I think there are some people who, should be banished into eternity, right? Yeah, in a sense, it really depends on what they do. But we cancel people over a certain collective or group of people whose feelings are hurt. You know what I mean? And then you might have another set of people who is like, I don't really see anything wrong with what they said. I mean, we're canceling each other over hurt feelings and egos oftentimes. It's not even about like things that are really serious, right? And really detrimental, because you see the people who do things that are really damaging and say things that are really damaging, and they go untouched. No one talks about it. No one comes at them. I just think that we go after the lowest hanging fruits oftentimes. The easier targets is what we tend to go after. And as far as like us as a collective, as Black people, JP, I'm going to let you speak to what my ad said, and also Ashan. But I just want us to also think about, why do we deal with each other like that? Why are we so quick to cancel each other? Why is that? And whereby the other people who are really doing damage to us, because when I see these fights, I'm just going to be honest. I see a bunch of puppets fighting each other over who has the most strings. That's how I look at it. I'm like, this is just puppets fighting each other, because the person who is in control, who has the power, right, who is calling the shots, is going unscathed. They're behind the scenes. No one, the unseen hand, in other words. So when I see this happening, I'm just like, okay, we are very disempowered, because how do I know that? We are not trying to gain power. We are trying to off each other. We are not trying to get power, because power requires us to fight. Getting power requires us to get uncomfortable. Getting power requires us to actually face the real enemy. And a lot of us just don't really want to do that. And so what I'm going to do is go after JP, right? So that I can feel like I'm actually doing something. I'm gonna attack JP because she's closer, she's easier, she does not have that much power like myself. Okay. And then I see a whole lot of, what is this thing that we do in this space? I don't need to listen to Ashan because Ashan don't have as much followers as me. What is that? Like, what is that? I'm just like, what does that mean? I don't
That's
respect
that.
you. Go ahead,
That's
go
that.
ahead, JP.
That's that big bank take little bank mentality. That's that
Yeah,
I'm
it's
bigger
the
than you. I got more followers than you. I'm making more money than you. So I'm better than you mentality. And that's been going on in our community since forever. Black people always feel the need to belong. We yearn it. We yearn the attention. We yearn to belong. And when we find somebody that we think, we so easy to, to follow the dangling carrot. I say it all the time, the shiny object, the charismatic conversation. We easy to sway over to the ways of people in that are like that.
Mhm.
And when they gain popularity, there's this sense of, ooh, they popular, everybody like them, so let me go over here so I can be down with the crowd that everybody like this person crowd type of thing. And then there's this mentality of, oh, I'm bigger, I'm better, got more money, got a better house, got a better car, my family's in a better position, so that makes me better than you. We love to do that to each other as a race of people. We love to
What
tear
kind of one?
down
Yeah, one up. We like
or
to
try
one
to
up each
one
other.
up
Yeah.
exactly each
Okay.
other, and instead of going after the people who has been oppressing us all,
Okay.
to fight to fight that power that be.
Okay.
But that's the biggest divide and conquer that they did to us. That's how we stay divided and conquered, and we will never be a unity with that frame of mindset. And that's a conditioning that we have. We always want to make ourselves feel good by making someone else feel bad.
Hmm. So JP, you were gonna say something to that, and then I want to go to Ashan.
I find in this YouTube space, it's some of those things. A lot of it seems to be elitist, as if how dare you, average individual, come to YouTube and try to tell people something. You don't have a degree, or you don't have a trade, or you don't such and such. As if you can't have value if you haven't achieved some level of status. And in that way, I agree with Patrice. It is the same code that it's always been and will always be until we decide to see each other and our own selves as something different. I just I look at everyone in these YouTube spaces and the number of hours that they put in each just live streaming. Um, that's not including what it takes to decide what you're going to create your content about, what you're going to do to keep up with the changing apps and so on and so forth. How much value are you really placing on yourself? Because we know that at the end of the day, the man, so to speak, places it at dollars and cents. And if that's how you look at it, then you'll continue to run that same race, even though you call yourself an um, entrepreneur. You're just an independent contractor to YouTube, baby. Uh,
Mm.
and and on that way, you're no different than somebody out there selling a rainbow vacuum cleaner or a set of knives. So, my thing is always just look at yourself. Figure out um, what you value and how you value yourself.
Mm.
I think that's. Sorry, I didn't mean it to go off. If I
You know
No,
did,
what?
no,
I
you're
want to say one
fine.
more thing because I
Mm-hmm.
want everybody to be aware this stuff goes on in Hollywood too, with the A-listers versus the B-listers.
Mm.
They make examples out of the little ones as to say, I got more power than you, more money, and more influence. Monique is a prime example of that.
Mm-hmm.
So don't think And and I think a lot of times we try to live our lives through other people vicariously, and a lot of things are what we see that's happening, in the industries and things like that. But we do it in these spaces as well. I'm around some of those people, and I see it happening in those spaces, and it also happened just in these spaces. So don't think it's just us regular folk down here that work regular jobs, and some might have a little bit more money or whatever, or clout or resources than the other. It's
Mm-hmm.
all over the world. We do this as a people,
Mm-hmm.
all over the world.
Okay.
So it's a conditioning.
Okay. I could see that. Ashan, you want to speak to that? JP, I just made your moderator, so I think. Go ahead, Ashan.
Congratulations. What was the question that I'm speaking to? 'Cause I was
So
going somewhere else
I
while you
wanted you
guys were
to
going different
respond
ways.
to Maat's question, and then the question that's on the table is why do we interact with each other the way we do, and why are we so eager or so quick to cancel each other?
They're so quick to cancel each other. Again, I can't get out of my head on this one. I really feel like it's about control because the way I see it, and I know it's kind of clinical, but I think at least my idol will appreciate this. I think we're disconnected from nature so far, so much to such a degree that we don't even recognize that we're interacting with nature, and we're thinking it's part of the civil side of society. We're thinking it's a part of the social construct, but these are natural principles. These are dominance hierarchies that we're talking about, and we interact with them at every level. Like even
Mm-hmm.
within ourselves, there's multiple parts of ourselves that are at war, and only one of them is going to be dominant. Your mind, or your emotions, or your body, your physical, like the urges. So those things, you're at war with yourself, and there's going to be something that's dominant at any one time. Like right now, I'm in my headspace.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really feeling, and I'm not thinking about my urges like hunger or something else like that, or being hot or cold. That goes into the next space I enter. There's going to be a dominance hierarchy. So I'm in a room with you, but you're the dominant party here because this is your room. You can remove me. So there's a dominance hierarchy here, but I could, fight for a position within the room, try to shine or something like that. But then there's another level. Then you go to the next space. Then there's a larger, broader space. So we're trying to dominate within YouTube. We're trying to get clicks and views and grow our viewership and be higher up so that we can get monetization. Then there's another level. So there's all these levels upon levels upon levels of hierarchies that we're interacting with. So we need to understand the nature of it. We're not going to escape the power struggle. That's a part of nature. Like when dogs, cats, when they're born, they start pawing at each other and they establish dominance. It happens with insects. It happens with animals. I mean, plants even assert their dominance. Weeds will choke out flowers. Like, so power struggles and dominance are not something we're going to escape. We have to learn to navigate in spite of that, because that's a natural system. That's not something we can civilize our way out of.
And I think at your question was, what do we do? Can you ask the question again so that make sure we're clear?
Yeah. So what are we doing as in our community? Because there's a lot of times people are publicly tearing down someone's character, tearing down who they are. And so a lot of times people are asking that it be addressed, just like you tore me down publicly, the accountability needs to be addressed publicly.
And that goes back to my control thing. So not only are we trying to control the reality, we're also trying to control the perception, because a lot of times perception is reality. So we're trying to guard our reputation, and that's an ego thing too. So we're trying to worry about, oh, I want you to respond to me. We want you to apologize publicly because you shamed me publicly, and that's an ego thing. I want you to make me look just as good as you made me look bad. It's not a necessity for life. You're not going to die if they don't get an apology out in public. So it's not a necessity. So that has to be something else. So if it's not a natural necessity, it doesn't feed you, doesn't clothe you, shelter you, then it has to be something internal. It's a feeling or a thought. So we have to be mindful of our feelings and thoughts and how we use that in a society. So we allow our feelings and our thoughts to lead us sometimes to places that may not be necessary. I get, if you're worried about your reputation, yeah, if that matters to you, because you can lose viewers on YouTube. So somebody says something about you, you can lose viewers. or in law. You know, like what's her face said something about Cardi B and she got
Mhm.
sued. So I mean, so people can hold you responsible through legal remedies. But again, like some of this stuff, we just have to think about it differently. A lot of us, we get in our feelings about some of these things and not thinking it out because some of the stuff is just not as serious as we. It's differently serious. I don't know how to word this. We worry about it in the wrong capacity. So we're not worried about it as far as like we're worried about it from an ego space as
Mhm.
opposed to like a something. I don't know the right word for it, but we get in our egos a lot more than actually trying to a beneficial space. So instead of having a utility, we're looking for an ego stroke. So
Mhm.
that's my opinion.
So I kind of want to push back just a little bit on that because sometimes we can deem certain things as, you know, like stroking the ego, but like it goes back to when we talk about the different needs that we have as people, and these needs are not necessarily so it's the need for when you want to have a better relationship with yourself, and then a better relationship with other people and in your community. Now again, I don't necessarily think that, you know, you have to have a relationship with everyone, but what is being said can affect your relationship on a personal level and on a level with other people, because now you have maybe hundreds or thousands of people who are now questioning things that are being said, you know, that are being said about you. So I don't think, yeah, it's not a need in order to live, but it may be a need in order to thrive, because now it's affecting your mental, it's affecting your emotional state. You know, it's still, you know, we dismiss sometimes sometimes we dismiss the other aspects of ourselves,
Okay.
and only focus on the physical. Yeah, we need food, clothing, and water, but what about the other aspects of ourselves that we need as well? We need connection, we
Yes.
need love, we need
Mhm.
security, we need all of these things in order to thrive and to have valuable relationships. So in essence, we also need to have some kind of order
Mhm.
in our community and in our relationships, to say that when you do this, this is what's going to happen, this is what the consequences are going to be. And understanding that that does need to happen, because if I said that to my kids, well, your sister says something, you know, that's not true, lie is lying on you constantly, and I said, well, that don't matter, you know, that's just your ego, you, what's that gonna do, you know? That would be, you know, they would, my child would look at me like, but she's lying on me, and that's going to end up affecting our relationship down the road. So I do think it is, we can't just dismiss it as it's not a need to live. I do think it is still, in some regards, still a need, and it's not always just ego. Sometimes it is ego, but I don't think it's always just ego.
Well,
So
let me
here's
can
what.
I push back on that
Sure, go ahead.
real quick?
And
Let
then
me
before you can
clarify.
go, before I speak, go ahead, Ashan.
All right. Let me clarify what I'm talking about because I thought we were talking about in this virtual YouTube space and how people do on panels. So, because I was speaking from that context, I don't need anybody on YouTube to affirm me. And if I do have that need for a specific group of people within YouTube to for my self-actualization, for my self-esteem, if I need a specific group of people within the billions on the planet and millions on YouTube, if I need this one group to affirm and build that up in me, I have an unhealthy relationship with this thing in front of me. So that's what I'm talking to. We were talking about in these YouTube spaces. If I need the conversations with King crew that I, fell in with, if I need that crew to make me feel like a whole human being, the problem's with me. It's not with whoever's on the panel. And conflating that with the children thing, no, I definitely wouldn't say that to children. Again, I want to keep that in the online space that
Okay.
we were talking about.
Okay.
That's not a universal principle about it being ego, because you have to groom children to learn how to deal with their egos, and you're shaping their minds. But as us, I'm speaking to what I perceive to be adults who should have some level of ability to police their own behavior. And we would say this to a family members or friends. We've had these conversations. I believe Ma'at, you spoke to this, and Hanifa. If you have toxic, unhealthy relationships and people do not consider your needs, then you should move on from that. Hanifa just did a panel within the last 2 weeks. You cut off or move. This is a great big world. This is a great big virtual space. You don't need the connection exactly where you are. It's okay to move because there are other people to connect with. The reason I'm here is because I'm connecting with different people in a different space than from where I was connecting before, because this is better for me. So that's all I'm saying is self-governance, self-control, self-accountability, to not rely on the low-hanging fruit like Hanifa talked about, of these are the convenient people because they're here, but I'm no longer feeling good. I'm not going to get my feel goods here. I need to be accountable and say, maybe I should move somewhere else. Instead of trying to make them fit my feelings, maybe my feelings need to find a new place to fit.
Yeah,
May
and
I say
I
something?
agree. I'm sorry. I'm gonna be real quick, and I agree with what you're saying. Because even in the chat, DC Butler said, if a person isn't worthy to be in my circle, I'm not wasting time making someone accountable that may not be able to hold accountable in the first place. So that is, and then that's why when it comes to cancel culture, I believe in, I don't use cancel, but
Okay.
I believe in protecting my peace and protecting myself from certain people, because when it comes to Hanifa, when you asked the question about why we're doing this, I believe we have to look at just the core of the person, just looking at who they are, because we know that if we continue, like if we have a revolution, we're trying to come together, band together and revolt, and we have somebody over here who's not doing that, and we know that historically that has happened, we can't continue to say, well, I rock with this person, so no, they're going to end up destroying what we're trying to do. So again,
We'll have to put Rico on that person. But yes,
I
absolutely.
don't want to talk about cancel culture, but I'll go after JP. I ain't done with cancel culture. I believe it.
But JP, or you want Rico, you want to give JP the go before you, because I know
let JP go before me. She been waiting.
So JP, Rico, and then OG Patrice. I saw your mic unmute. So after Rico, you can go ahead, OG.
No,
Go ahead,
I'm
JP.
sorry. I'm pilling with my thing, and I accidentally did that. So sorry about that.
Okay.
I wanted to say, I've come to some boundaries of my own. Like when it comes to people going after other content creators, what I will and will not watch, or whom I will or will not deal with. And it came down to me, to babies or children and the deceased. They have no agency, so leave them the hell alone. Outside of that, everybody grown as hell. Get your life. You know what I'm saying? And in that regard, my next thing was, well, okay, if you don't like how they get their life, then what's the next thing? And I spoke to another content creator who's not making content right now, but he was giving me some tax advice, and it works for everything in my regard. And he said two things to me. One, do I want or need to work with them in the future? And two, do I want or need to maintain a relationship with them in the future? And that's how I base pretty much every decision when it comes to these YouTube streams. And then I'm someone who is of a volunteer work mindset. I've always been a volunteer manager. And so the way I see YouTube is there's a bunch of volunteers trying to figure out how to get their life right, get their act right. And if we can come together in the space and figure out how to communicate, then we can get our power. And DC can get off my neck about how I put about getting power, and Danique can let me have my break. It's not my fault Human Resources had to read the manual on how to make me a moderator again. I mean, I love y'all.
Thank you. I kind of did. Rico, you wanted to say
tell us
something?
how you really feel, JP.
I know.
Yes. Can we at least set the conversation when we talk about cancel culture, who we're talking about? Okay. So when we talk about, because it was like a conversation me and Arshawn had earlier today, and I said I never understand why Black people make taxes their issue. That's not their issue. So when we talk, when ordinary people are talking about cancel culture, I don't know why we're so sensitive to it, because ain't nobody canceling us. Whom do we cancel? People of influence.
Gotcha.
Primarily, we're talking about celebrities, stars, dancers, singers. And what I believe is this: when you're in a position of influence, it's a privilege. It's not a right. If you do something to break that privilege for whatever reason, the baby said something stupid about the LGBT, he don't have a right to be a superstar. There's no right. There's no implicit right to have fans and adoration. Most of them really, other than can sing, dance, or whatever, they get a level of worship that they're not worthy of in the first place, because we heap it upon them unearned. We do that. We have a right to cancel anybody whenever we want. So I'm like, when people get, even in these YouTube spaces, as I tell Arshawn, when we do our little show, we have to earn your audience and your time. And if I say or do something to cause me to lose that, I don't have a right to that. We have to earn it every time we show up, because it's not owed to us. So this whole entire concept, that's why I do. I mean, I ain't never canceled nobody. I get tired of watching. I just stop watching it. You call it whatever you want. But we cancel people every day. They cancel TV shows every season. They don't get enough viewers.
Right.
What are we talking about?
Yeah.
Cancel culture has been a thing before they start coining the term cancel culture.
Yeah.
When a singing group just ain't no good, they get relegated to the Chitlin circuit or wherever. The state. It just, if it doesn't draw attraction, views, attention, it's canceled. So can you speed it up by saying or doing something stupid? Yeah. But you don't have a right to hold on to that. So a lot of white entertainers have slipped it. They got canceled. Shouldn't have said it. Should have kept it in your mouth. You let the N-word out and you white and you an entertainer and you get canceled. Oh, cancel culture. You should have kept it in your mouth. You don't have a right to that.
Let's be real. Let's be real. They're not canceling no white people.
Well, not. I mean, I'm just using that like it's low level. They're not canceling Joe Rogan. Right. They ain't canceling Joe Rogan. But if you lower than that, I don't suggest you try it if you're not a Joe Rogan. You know what I'm saying? So they do get canceled, but anywhere in any space, white, black, blue, green, whatever, the whole argument of I should be able to say and do whatever I want and never get canceled, it's a silly argument to have. And since I've never been a big celebrity, I get this little YouTube fame. They take that. I ain't making no money off it to cancel me. What do I care? I go back to living my everyday life.
So there's a number of things here, right? That okay. So as far as cancel culture, well, I don't even want to harp on cancel culture, but one of the things that I've observed, and the reason why I put Dante's comment up is because I feel like my thought process is along this line. I think that because of our condition as a people, it really affects our collective moral compass. And when I say that, I mean that because of police brutality and how Black people are treated by authorities in this, right? The likelihood of OG Patrice doing something in front of me and I'm minimizing it and be like, okay, I won't tell anyone, becomes really high. So it affects what we're talking about, accountability. I'm talking about as a collective, not individual. Okay. We tend, from my observation, we have really lowered the bar. We've really, really lowered it. And I know why. I understand why. To the point where I even think when we compare ourselves to white people, that is a low standard. What do I mean by that? How do you say If they can do it, we can do it. How do you justify a behavior in our community by pointing at people who have done some of the most diabolical things against your people? How do they become your standard, right, of what good is? How does that work? And I see us do this all the time. It's almost like I'm holding Ashan accountable to something as being a part of the collective. And we said things like, well, white people do this. But that's not what we're talking about right now. I am trying to make our community better by holding another brother or another sister accountable to the collective. You don't get to tell me that the so-called, the oppressor, right? You don't get to say that person does it and therefore it should be okay for me to do it. The person who have done you damage cannot also be your standard of right and wrong. That's just crazy to me. It's insane, and I see us do it all the time. So I personally think, as far as accountability, there are things that we let go unchecked because of our condition as a collective in this society. I see it happen all the time, and then it translates or trickles over into this particular space. I see many conversations where they use other races to say, oh yeah, they talk about their woman like this too. You just don't know. I don't care if they talk about their woman like that. You talking about women that look like you the way you do, how is that uplifting, building your community? What is it doing? Life and death is in the power of the tongue. What are you doing? Are you building up or are you destroying? That is all I'm concerned about. I don't care about what other communities are doing. Our community is in a state of emergency. Our community is in a state of emergency. We are watching a war happen right now, okay? We are watching people die during this pandemic. We're watching our politicians being corrupt, and we want to talk about who's feminine and who's masculine. We're not talking about getting prepared. We're not talking about getting prepared psychologically, spiritually, physically. Okay, when we talk about health in the community, I'm seeing many platforms coming up now attacking Black women for their weight. We're not even talking about health in connection with being healthy or being prepared. We're not talking about health. We're talking about health as far as, like OG Patrice said, I'm smaller, right? So I'm going to one up this person. I'm going to shame them. What are we doing? So I know that as far as accountability goes, and in this YouTube space, talking about clicks, whether we hold someone accountable or not goes back to, and JP kind of touching it a little bit, what it is that people are trying to remain in good standing with each other. We hear a lot about the sisterhood, but who's YouTube is dominated by which gender? By which gender? Male. It's a male-dominated space. And so we're watching women come into the space, and it's almost like women feel like they have to come into this space. They don't want to be held accountable. I was on Wana's chat the other day, and I had to even said, hey, when a woman talks to a man like this, oh, she's just passionate. But when a man responds with the same tone, he's disrespectful. We need to hold each other accountable as women and as men. I can talk to my aunt, I can talk to JP, I could talk to OG Patrice. I've spoken to my aunt behind the scenes, right? Because I'm coming to you woman to woman now, as OG Patrice said. If my aunt don't receive that, I may or may not circle back around. I might say, you know what, she ain't trying to hear me. Let me keep it moving.
Right.
Or I might say, my art is a value to the community, so I am going to give it one more try. Because sometimes one strike is not enough. Sometimes we need to try again. So holding someone's accountable, it may not be a one attempt thing. You might have to go 2 or 3 times, but it really depends on how much we value each other. And I think it boils down to that. We don't really value each other. I don't have to have met you, Ashan, to value you. I don't. I could come into this space and I could see what you and Rico is trying to do, and I could salute that, and I could support that. And I could say these brothers are trying to bring this into the space, and therefore I value that. I value them. Now, my brothers that may not be on the same frequency as me, does it mean that I devalue them? No, we just don't align. But I don't have to devalue them. I don't have to degrade them. I don't even have to come at them. I don't have to talk about them. But we don't align, and I can see it for what it is and be like, okay, where I want to go, I can't connect with this person to go in that direction because they are not going in that direction. Now, I allow space for if they change directions. I allow space for that. And that's where I have an issue with the cancel culture piece, is that there's no space for that. And I also understand, and Ashan, I know we talked about this before. We are all of us, we are not one thing. We're not. We're very complex beings. So in one area, I might disagree with you, Rico, right? And then I might be like, you know what? I don't like that how Rico feel about this particular topic. But Rico is a dope dad. And so I'm going to bring him on my panel so we could talk about fatherhood. Not about that other thing we disagree with, but about fatherhood. Because Rico can say, I don't really like how Black people do this, right? And I could see a problem with that. But Rico can also be a good father. These two things can be true at the same time. So that's where I'm sort of like, I kind of wrestle with that, because I understand that none of us are just one thing. None of us are. None of us are. So if I just take one thing about JP and just decide that I'm going to define the whole of JP, I do myself a disservice as far as building some sort of relationship with her. And that goes back to what my aunt said, and I wanted to answer that. My aunt, I could be friends with someone and they could have done wrong to you. Okay? And now all three, I'm the mutual friend. So you guys are not friends, but I'm your mutual friend. And you might ask, how do you continue to hang out with them after they call me a B? You get what I'm trying to say? And I'm looking and saying, are you kidding me? This person has always been there for me when I was at my lowest. Like when I was on the verge of suicide, that person was my support system. But my aunt, you want me to cut them off because they called you out your name. Do you see how that works? And it's like, I could see the value in that person, even though you don't see the value in them. I hope I'm clear on what I'm trying to say. So that's kind of where it gets tricky for me. And I think that we could do a better job around complexities and nuances, like with each other. I feel like we don't do well with nuance as a collective. We just don't. Go ahead, JP. I think you want to say something.
Thank you. One of the things that I will say is we speak a lot in this space about spiritual health. Your mental health is important, and when you combine the two, especially this space does that a lot. I would say, for me, y'all know me, I say all the time, I don't do friendships, I do allyships. That's just coming out the gate. But the other thing is, you got to know accept who that other person, what they say that they are, accept them, that, and then assess them based on what they do, and then act according to how you feel in your spirit about it. Like, don't let there be energy sucking. If you feel icky after dealing with somebody, okay, maybe the first day you or they had a bad day. The second time you encounter one another, if you still feel icky, why keep going forward? I always ask people, why step in dog poop twice? I don't get it, but keep moving forward. And if you all can continue to work together, or maybe you need some time apart and then eventually you can come back together to work together. Stop forcing things. We seem to always want to make this thing happen in the moment, when sometimes we need to, let it take its own course. Just like finding out who you are, especially as a kid, is getting the knockarounds from other people and then being like, oh well, man, I'm the smelly kid. Shit. I'm on my way to the showers. You know what I'm saying? We got to start to look at, like someone said, value. We have to value the other person on their worst day and on their best day, and then be able to assess, whether or not we can really spend time with them.
That's a good point. Sean, you had your hand up.
Yeah, because I really, oh, see, JP disappeared on me like Rico disappeared on her. I saw you. I saw you. But
Don't
no,
run.
I really do believe, like, that's why I appreciate a lot of the people on the panel, because almost everybody here has spoken on developing a code and culture. My aunt JP has a principles that she's trying to build. OG Patrice talks about the ADOS. And that's why, Hanifa, I know you're very spiritual. So you all have something where you all don't believe in throwing everybody away. There, I'm not trying to be, divisive, but there are certain groups of people who are very, I don't know, eliminatory. They'll eliminate people quickly, without question, based on whatever the reason. I mean, so there's a mindset that I believe a lot of us adopt, throwing people away, eliminating people, domination. You know what I'm saying? Supremacy. So there's a lot of that gets indoctrinated in us if you do not already have your own established code and culture, which is why I do believe that people that have platforms like yourself, Hanifa, JP, my aunt, and OG Patrice coming soon, who teach people to have an established foundation of principles and values and beliefs that not only give you your identity, that you don't have to get it from the social structure, the public. It also gives you your like your place in the world is
Mhm.
established by something that you internalize, so that you're not dependent on these outside systems to instruct you. So that way when they tell you, well, you don't have a degree, you feel less than, or you don't have more money, that way you don't participate in these social hierarchies that we've created to
Mhm.
mimic the natural ones. So these social ones aren't real, they're fictitious. If you have 3 degrees and I have one, you're not better than me. You stayed in school longer. It doesn't even mean that you're smarter than me. So
That's
there's
true.
it's a fictitious hierarchy that we participate in, but people wrap their identities in these false constructs instead of the universal principles that these spiritual systems, foundational principles, and like the ADOS. I know they had their building principles. JP has some principles she about, and but a lot of this stuff is from spiritual sets that are not based upon what man has decided, or a group of men that may not look like us or may not want the best for us. So it's
Mhm.
important to establish a code and culture for that purpose, because it gives you a personal foundation. And then hopefully, if you have the right system, it will also give you a group identity and a group sense of self-esteem. So even as, like you said, as Black people, we come in these spaces and kind of trip all over each other. We don't have the code and culture that says, hey, Hanifa, I see value in you, without me having a personal relationship with you. A
Mm.
code and culture that affirms each other and tells you, I see the God in Hanifa. You
Mhm.
know, the same God that poured something in me is in JP. The
Mhm.
same God that created me created OG Patrice. The same God that is in me is also in Rico. So I would never throw any of you away, because I'm throwing away the piece of God that He saw fit to put into the world. So having a code and a culture that establishes that framework, independent of the society that we see, that says, that all lives matter, but you're on death row. You know what I'm saying? So these incongruent ideas that come from the social structure, that what causes this social schizophrenia, because we have all these things that play in our head, all these different voices telling us to follow these different narratives. You have to have your own set of principles that you're built upon, and that greater your group is built upon. Otherwise, you're going to be crumbling because your foundation isn't steady. So, I mean, I really appreciate what JP said in the last piece, and I'll wrap this up. What JP said about, do I want to do business, and do I need to do business, and do I want to have a relationship, and do I need to have a relationship? That goes towards utility. So in accountability, there's an exchange of value there in accountability. You have to have some kind of relationship, something that anchors that person to you, some sort of leverage where you can hold them to an account. Because if we don't know each other, there's no accountability. So that you have to recognize that we're talking about understanding the nuance.
Mhm.
Nobody that you have utility with is you can't hold them accountable. If they don't need you or want you, they're not going to listen to you. So we need to understand that there's little things that we don't think about, but that plays into why people are so quick to throw others away. They don't have any utility. I don't want you. I don't need you. I can throw you away. That's why a established code and culture is important, because that says even if I don't want you, even if I don't need you, you still have value, and that's where we need to get to.
That's a very, very good point. And I was going to say that's a good point that JP made, and then you also build on it by saying like it boils down to value. Like if I see no value in you, or in this space that we're in, if I can't benefit from associating with you, then I can discard of you at any time. If OG Patrice, I don't really value you in that capacity or have respect, then whether it doesn't matter where you pull me up. If you pull me up in public or in private, it doesn't matter. I really don't care what you have to say, because what are you offering me in exchange? Right? What are you offering me in exchange for me being held accountable? And if there's nothing for me to gain from you, then no, you don't get to hold. And that's not all of us, but that's a lot of us. And that's kind of what it's coming down to at the end of the day. But I want to move on to what would we like to start seeing in the space? And then how are we going about bringing that into fruition or manifesting that? Because I don't believe in just, I would like to see more of this and just saying it. I believe in that you have to become what is it that you're looking for, what you're seeking, what you would like to see. If there's a change, then that change has to start with you first, right? I see YouTube, honestly, this is how I view it. It's a garden, okay? And if I come into that garden, I could decide, okay, I see, oh, they're missing this type of tree in this garden. And I actually have that tree. So I plant that tree in the garden. Okay. And it doesn't, I might eat from other trees, but I'm like, it's missing a mango tree. That's what's missing from in here. Some nice, sweet yellow mangoes. So what I do is I come into the garden and I plant a mango seed, right? Because the garden is missing a mango tree. That is totally up to me. I can either come into the garden and be like, y'all need to plant mango trees. Why y'all ain't got no mango trees up in here? Shame on y'all. I could do that, or I could take it upon myself to say, well, since I feel like it needs a mango tree, let me plant a mango tree in the garden. That's it. But some of us are making it more difficult than it needs to be. I go back to what JP said. If it doesn't resonate with you, move on. If you are not seeing it, maybe it's for you to create it. That's how I look at it. If it doesn't align with you, and you know that they are not hearing what you're saying, then you're going to have to move on. I think a lot of us are bringing our own traumas and our own hurts and pain into this place, and when we are holding each other accountable for our own healing. And that's not how that works. I can't come into a space on Rico's platform and expect Rico to make me whole. That's not how healing works. Not in these spaces, not in public spaces. It's just not going to happen. So if there's something that you don't see, either go and look for it. And if you can't find it, maybe it's because you need to create it. That's how I see that, right? If there's a space or a platform or whatever that you don't agree with, then why are you constantly there? Because that's where personal accountability comes in. Every time you're there in the comment section trying to correct somebody on the platform, or trying, you're reporting, trolling like Arshawn. He had that troll glow the other night, or reporting the person's page all the time. You know what I mean? So that's why I had the question, like, how much of our own personal thing do we, our own values are we projecting and calling it accountability? I want you to see the world the way I do. I want you to conduct yourself the way I do. I want you to navigate this space the way I do. That is projection. Because at the end of the day, if how you feel is not law and to where it's just affecting everybody else, then you need to go sit somewhere and get your ego and your feelings in check, because no one is here to coddle you. That's just the truth. And when I say that, I don't mean that we get the right to disrespect and hurt each other. What I'm saying is that you don't get to come into the space and say, because my feelings are hurt, I don't want to talk about it. I just want you to be shut off. So I'm going to report you, or I'm going to get behind closed doors and ask other people not to support you. So there's a lot. Again, I go back to, it's not accountability that we are asking for. I'm going to go back to JP's word, atonement. I'm going to go back to Arshawn's word, control. I'm going to go to my word, punishment. These are really the things we're asking for. I need you to be publicly punished so that I could feel better about what happened. So I want you guys to talk about, I'm going to start with OG. Patrice, are you there, Mama? Do you mind if I say Mama?
No, I don't mind. I am a mama.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm a
she's
mother,
somebody
but I
mother, right?
used to be a mama, but I am still a mother.
Okay, I'm sorry because it's automatic for me specifically with my elders. So as long as you don't take it anyway. Because I was gonna say Mama OG Patrice. I'm gonna start with you, Mama OG Patrice. What is it that you would like to see more of in the space as far as the Black collective is concerned, and what have you been doing to bring that into fruition?
Okay, like Black people play too goddamn much, right?
We do.
Okay. We always talk about we serious about this. We want to see this. We like we need to, we play too much. Like when we gonna be serious about a thing? Now, if your platform is just for shits and giggles, or clicks and views or whatever it is they call, then that's cool. Be straight up with what you saying your channel is about. But don't be talking about you about the community, you about the accountability, you about the change, you about that, and you're totally not. That's the hypocrisy for me, right? So when I come on platforms, if I'm not talking about ADOS or my things that I'm doing to in real time to help the Black community to give some knowledge and things and my opinions and views on certain topics, I'm just not subscribing to the buffoonery anymore because Black people pay too much for me. Real talk.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm seeing a lot of just people like to hear themselves talking points. They like the combativeness and the argumentative. They like the gender wars, and they absolutely don't have any solutions. At the end of the, it's just a echo chamber. It's just over and over again, round and round. Same. It's just it could be they can pick a different topic, but at the end of the day, they still in the gender war, and nothing gets resolved. They don't say, "Well, what's the resolution to this problem? How can we solve this problem?" It's just okay till next time we meet with another topic that we can argue about. That's what it is. And it's real people that is really doing real work or trying to make a difference in these spaces. So I'm just now being very conscious about what I choose to listen to,
Mhm.
what I choose to subscribe to. I know I unsubscribed to at least 4 or 5 channels. I can't do it no more. Our people play too damn much.
Yeah.
Like for real, I can't. So, and like in real time, the only person in real life in this space that I have met is JP face to face.
Mm.
So I
Lucky,
can
lucky.
I can say that, you know what I mean? But the rest of and I don't own a channel, right? And this is me, and let me be clear.
Mhm.
If I don't fall for the bullshit with people I work with in Hollywood, I'm damn sure not finna fall for the bullshit in these spaces. Cause I don't
Mhm.
know y'all like that.
Mhm.
I don't owe y'all nothing. Y'all don't owe me anything. If I don't sell myself to the devil to have had probably would have been a much successful career, but I choose not to rock with some people in freaking Hollywood because I know how they are. What the hell? I'm in these YouTube streets. I don't know y'all like that. No harm, no foul. I once didn't know none of y'all.
Mhm.
Real talk. I'm just, and I come to the realization of that, and I think that if everyone else take the advice of that, but if it's your brand, if it's your business, then you need to move in a different way. But if you out here for shits and giggles, It's all depends on what you subscribe to. But I'm just sick of black folk. Y'all play too much for me. I digress.
Okay, so here I'm going to come to my at next because I'm going to go around and I want everyone to speak. One of the things that actually bothers me is when I hear people say things like it's just YouTube, because I feel like we're missing on an opportunity to actually connect, right, across across the nation with each other. We're missing the use or the utilization of a very powerful tool, which is still media, social media, to actually connect and build. Now, no one is saying that we come and we talk about certain things, right, that shouldn't be talked about publicly, but it's a way to rally up the troops, I guess. It's a way to connect with like minded people and build with them outside of the platform. But the platform itself can still be a tool that can be used to connect like-minded people so that they now can go outside of the tool and build together. You know what I mean? But I feel like we minimize it. Oftentimes the people that I've heard who've minimized it are people who don't want to be held accountable for the trash or the poison that they spew on this platform, right? Or the space that the toxic space that they may have cultivated or created on this platform. So if I don't want to be held accountable, then I have to make the platform insignificant. I have to minimize the impact, right? And the power of it so that I don't have to be held to a certain standard or to be held accountable. So I think we have an opportunity in utilizing this as we do any other tool. Facebook, Instagram, these things are tools. What you choose to do with the tools is a whole other story. But there are still tools that we can use towards the progression of the collective, honestly. But my question that goes to you: what is it that you are hoping to see more of in as far as accountability and so forth? And what have you been? I mean, I kind of have an idea, but what have you been doing to bring that to manifestation?
Okay. So Wednesday when I went live, I spoke about our spiritual health and how we're not spiritually okay and how that affects our mental, our emotional, our physical, and how this is all connected. So I talked about how we're constantly absorbing toxicity. So in these spaces, so even before we get in these spaces, on TV, in our music, everywhere, they already know what gets us to watch. They already know what gets us to sit down, watch that television, get on social media, whatever it is. We Hanifa, you and I always talk about the algorithm, right? Like we in changing that algorithm. So it's, for one, we have to stop absorbing the toxicity, because understanding that the more you absorb the toxicity, the more it becomes you. I speak about this all the time. I say this all the time, but that toxicity that sustains you. So, like the food that we eat sustains our toxicity, but also the entertainment and the music, the arguments, the fights, all of this sustains our toxicity. We're like that parasite feeding off um, of the bacteria in our body. We're the parasite feeding off the toxicity. So as long as we go into these spaces, sit there, and even if we're just looking, not saying anything, we're still absorbing it, and it's sustaining whatever little part. It could even just be a little part, because we all have toxicity within us.
Yes.
We live in a toxic world. It's almost impossible for us to remove ourselves from toxicity. So really taking accountability starts with us first taking up accountability with ourselves. Really looking at, what am I absorbing? I talk about, on my channel, I constantly talk about how we judge ourselves first. How we judge ourselves when we rise, before we rest each day. Did I live up to the moral code and not just my own moral code. And that's why you said the piece that you said, Hanifa, about who's moral, the white moral code that we're following. Because I always ask, whose values, whose moral code are we following? Because if you're following a moral code or morals that are contradictory to what is going to be helpful for you first, helpful for you, helpful for your community, helpful for your family, helpful for the continuation of you, because, okay, I'm not going to get into that, but the continuation of you, then if that's not the moral code that you're following, then you are following a moral code that is foreign to you, and you're never going to thrive in that moral code. We're never going to stop the fighting because we're following a moral code that is just different than what we are at our core. So that takes unlayering. Not only do we have to unlayer the white filter that we have on goggles, and we're seeing through whiteness constantly. That's why when we talk to one another or we engage with one another, we're seeing through their goggles, we're seeing through their glasses. And so we don't see each other as the people that we really are because we haven't unlayered that whiteness yet. We haven't unlayered that filter. So really doing that unlayering. And also we have to unlayer our traumas. We have to unlayer our experiences that is also being projected onto other people. So we have to do all of that. This is a constant thing, and it takes so much attention, so much intentionality. And it's not an easy thing to do. That's why it's easier to get on YouTube and spew your hate and tell people how much you hate Black men, or tell people how much you hate Black women, or tell how much you hate this content creator. That's easy to do because it's already there. It's that surface. But getting deep down and really deep into why you're doing it in the first place, that's where the work comes in. So
Yeah.
I started this, all what I'm doing. I started it because I wanted our children not to go through this, right? Like that's the most important part. So when you ask the question what I want us to do, well, first I want us to heal, but be intentional about it. Nobody else can heal you. You can go and get a band-aid put on something, but no one can really do the work for you. So we have to start learning how to really heal ourselves. Like when it came to how I healed my son, the doctors couldn't tell me anything. I had to do that work myself and figure out what was going on with my child, with our child. And so the thing is, we always think we can go somewhere outside of ourselves and find that healing, but the real work begins with ourselves. And so I say that just because our children are watching this. Our children are watching. They're aware. Like my daughter had said something to me and I didn't even know she knew anything about a particular situation. And she was like, "Oh, because I come into my little room, I close the door, and I don't think they hear what's going on,
They
but
do.
they do. They're coming to the door, they're listening,
Yep.
And all of those different things. So when we say that we're in this bubble, we're not in this bubble. That's why the children, the teenagers who are on social media right now, they're also looking, but they're also experiencing the effects of what social media is. They're experiencing being more having a feeling of rejection and all of these different things. People are either committing suicide or they're thinking about it because of social media. So it is very important that we heal ourselves and we pass that healing on to our children, because right now all we're passing on is trauma, all we're passing on is toxicity. So that's what I desire. So what I'm doing is that that's the value that I'm trying to give to people in the space that I'm in. Because I could go on and I could go into my platform and I can say what's wrong with everything or what's wrong with people and all these different things, but I choose to give tools for healing and also doing that because I'm not going to say that I'm far removed from any
Right.
of this or from
Right.
toxicity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say that sometimes I don't turn on the TV and
Mm-hmm.
absorb something that's a reality show and be like, and get all absorbed in it and things like that. And I'm not going to say that sometimes I don't go to channels, but what I do is I've been trying to intentionally change the algorithm of the people in my life and also the algorithm of my social media. And that is as easy as don't recommend this channel. That's all.
JP, I'm coming to you next. Rico, while my aunt was speaking, you came to my mind, and I'm finally on your side. You won me over, sir. When she and only because my aunt talked about the children. Because as she was speaking, I wrote down, Rico, why checking is necessary. Because a young person listening in to a panel discussing and demoralizing black, let's say a young black girl, black woman, right? If no one is countering it, then that teenager, whoever might be watching and saying, well, I guess this is true, because no one is disagreeing. So I totally see where you're coming from, where you're just like, no, in certain moments, like it depends on what's being said. It needs to be checked for the sake of the audience, for the sake of who is watching. And then the same thing with black men. There's a channel, JP, I think you know this brother. T something. He talks a lot
Dr.
about, huh?
Dr. Tia Johnson.
Thank you. Okay, that's one of the channels I watch a lot, and I read a lot of Amos Wilson's books around like Black boys, Dr. Kunjufu, like because I am a mother of Black boys, and when I hear certain things say about Black men in these spaces. Now, here's what I don't believe in. I don't believe in trying to hold people accountable in an escalated state. I don't believe in that. My training in crisis management has really equipped me for that. And in crisis management, when that person is at the peak of their escalation, that is when you do the least interacting. Okay. The issue with us is that we oftentimes we're out here trying to match energy. And when you decide you're gonna match energy of somebody who is pissed and angry and have no respect for the collective, all you're going to do is make the fire spread further. So for me, I can listen to people talk about Black men, but I will never entertain it in my space. You cannot 1 minute, you cannot be in my presence and tell me that Black men need to be deleted. You can't tell me we need to delete babies once we find out that they're going to be boys, Black boys. I can't entertain that. I can't sit by and let that be said. Why? Because what's going to happen is the young people that are hearing you, my sons are going to become these Black men that you are talking about, right? So you have a daughter and your daughter is hearing you spew that nonsense, right? She might interact. Listen, the world is smaller than we like to believe, because I hear people on these YouTube spaces say this all the time. We ain't gonna never see each other in real life. You do not know that. I don't know how people just so comfortably say that. The same internet that you use to attack someone, they can use that same internet to find you. So when we talk like that, I'm just like, no, I don't know if Rico's, Rico, not you, Rico. I don't know if my aunt's children, because your children grow, Rico. I don't know if my aunt daughter is going to run into my son. I don't know that. Right? So for me, if my aunt is spewing poison, I am going to only assume that she is also teaching her daughter that. And now her daughter grows up to be a woman and she interacts with my son, who I am raising to love Black women. And then we have an issue. And on top of that, it's a lie. So I brought up that channel, JP, because he talks a lot about the plight of Black men and the plight of Black boys and just how the disadvantages as well. You know what I mean? And the abuse of, the discarding of, the way that Black men and Black boys are treated just as utilities, right? And when I say to people, no one cares about Black men, Black women get all sensitive about that. And I say that because I have Black boys, and I know it's true. The educational system, that's why they're dropping out at a higher rate than Black girls. Okay, but we don't want to talk about that, right? Because as long as we are discussing who is more masculine and who is feminine, we're fine, right? As long as we're discussing who has more followers and subscribers, who has more followers on their Instagram, we're fine. Like OG said, after a while it gets old and it's tiring. And it's like, no, we have real serious issues. So when I come into this space, and I can never gender align with foolishness. You cannot talk about Black men and tell me that you don't mean my Black boys who are going to grow up to become Black men. You can't blanket state, you can't say Black men ish, just a blanket statement. And I'm not going to be affected by that as a Black woman who is, right, who is coupled with a Black man and who is raising Black boys. Come on now. But anyway, I digress. JP.
Yes. No. Dr. Chiason Johnson is one of my favorites. Yes. So, and I feel the same way that you do. I am the mother of 3 boys, and my boys had special needs. What we've all come to find out is that we super autistic-y up in this bad boy. And they grew up middle class military Black boys. That's a set of that's a bubble that's about this big, and so you already are protective of that. And then you come into these spaces trying to figure out how to talk to them, because you can't talk to them like your husband or your brother. There's somebody else, but you have to empower them because they're going to go out into the world and be somebody. Right. So it's a whole different thing. And when I got into the YouTube spaces trying to figure out how to talk to them, I was like, oh, well, but I ain't never said none of that to them. In fact, because I'm a child of I'm a parent, I guess, of the 90s era, right? I was a kid in the 80s and then came into my own in the 90s. I remember when Black men weren't likely to make it to 21 or 25. The fact that Rico sits here, looking super dapper with them shades up on his head, taking that nap, there you go. That is something to be upheld and honored all its own. And then when you add to that his military service and so on and so forth, we have to give reverence to the experience of living Black and feeling free enough to sip your drink with your glasses on YouTube. Tell everybody that you Black enough and got money enough to go to the DR and do what you want to. Right. And then, you know what I'm saying? That's an amazing thing that our children should be able to see as power, not chasing the bag, not chasing celebrity status, not pulling down people who are simply trying to make their way in life. Now, the gatekeepers, the ones who ain't doing their jobs, the one who giving that mouthpiece but ain't actually doing no work, snatch them down. Pull them all the way down along with them Confederate monuments. You hear me? That, we need to start being real about it. And if they happen to look like us and they still skin folk, well, they gonna have to come down too, because there's a time and a place for us to say, you know what, you can either get your ass out that house, off that porch, and out here with us, or you gonna burn with the rest of them.
Yeah. Thank you, JP. Rico, it's your turn. Don't you go? Did he go for a refill? Rico. Asha. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Rico.
But I can wait. I'll finish what I gotta say.
Oh, you want to wait?
No. I'll finish what I gotta say.
Okay. No. So I know you was trying to interrupt me, so you could go ahead and speak to what you was trying to say, and then if you could just answer the question around like what is it that you want to see more of, and sort of what you have been doing to kind of manifest that yourself.
Okay. The one thing I was trying to speak of, because I was glad you brought that up about why I object to certain things, and because I had spoken to a content creator, and I understand everybody's different. Mm-hmm. So all of us, you're more soft-spoken, Mayette's more soft-spoken, JP
was soft-spoken.
Huh? I am not. Okay, well, more soft-spoken than me.
Okay.
That way, okay. Y'all don't have as big of a mouth as I got.
That's not hard, Rico.
But I know. So what I'm saying is, and I know there's some male content creators like it, but I had told one, I said, look, you guys still have a responsibility that if you bring someone up on your platform and they spew some very horrible views, I don't expect you to go at them like I would. So I'm not preaching, oh, you do like I do, because I'm going to jump on their neck. I'm not asking you ladies to do that. But when that person goes down, I always told the content creator, leave yourself a space of 10 minutes at the end of your stream so you can counter the view. Because if you end the stream with them spewing their poison, that's the no counter view. Now, the audience, there may be someone else, because there may be young people. I know everybody go, me and Arshawn go back. I'm always like, the speaker has the greater responsibility, not the listener. So people like to go, oh, chew the meat, spit out the bone. I call bullshit on that. You shouldn't be speaking trash in the first place. Because I know what's in my head, not you. So if I go, well, I was saying that, I don't know why Hanifa misunderstood it, because it was in your head. So I have a responsibility as a speaker to speak with clarity and understanding and to confirm that you understand it. So if you come on my channel or my show and you say something that's crazy, I may give you the space to say it. But at the end, when you leave, I'm like, hey, Hanifa, she was cuckoo. Don't listen to that garbage. You know, some sort of affirmative statement as to what my position is, especially if I'm opposed. If I don't speak out against your position, I align with it, or I'm okay with it. I don't have to align with it. I'm okay with it. But if it's horrible, I implore every content creator to speak out against that.
Yeah, and I was going to say, or it could be assumed that you align with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If I don't say anything, either I'm aligned with it or it's assumed. Thank you. That's what you're doing, is you leaving a space for the viewer. I would do it. I watch it. I'm a grown man. I don't see Arshawn or you say nothing back. I'm like, they must be all right with it. So that happens every day. As far as I'm with Sister OG Patrice. Black folks stupid. They lie too much.
Okay.
Rico,
I think I said that. Hold up.
I'm sorry. I apologize. But you know what?
This is wait, hold up, Rico. For anyone that's listening, this is me countering where Rico that generalization that Rico just made. There are silly thinking, simple-minded Black people. But Black people as a collective are not stupid. Proceed, Rico.
I apologize. Thank you. That was great. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I apologize. My people are beautiful, strong, intelligent, loving, empathetic. They are leaders of the world. They are giants.
You better make up for it. Go ahead.
I was speaking in this particular YouTube space. In this YouTube space, there are some that are problematic.
That's a good word.
Troubling. And more than need be. And for those, they tend to have the loudest voices. So what OG Patrice was speaking to is what I see what troubles me the most. Unfortunately, like channels like this, low attention, but the messy, hundreds of thousands of streams and views every night. And I'm worried about it because that's how I came into this, seeing these voices dominate the spaces. And it hurt me. It hurt me to watch it. The level of dishonesty in those spaces. And I know it's to make money, but the level of, and dishonesty is a stickler for me. That's the one space me and Arshawn's been teaching me. If you tell me one lie, I throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm a stickler for honesty. Not that I believe everybody has to be truthful, but it's hard because, I'm not talking about a mistake. These people are telling flat out that I know demonstrable lies, and it's harmful. So then from that point on, I'm like, I throw everything away with the person. And I have to work on that. Not really, but I said I'll listen.
Do you think it's because you guys, OG and yourself, may come from a different generation? Okay.
Yeah, and then those are people that just I'm speaking for myself, OG.
Okay.
People like that in the past have hurt members of the community.
Okay.
They may have been pastors. So the pastor didn't tell all lies, but he told enough. And, cleaned out the community. They may have been people that you placed, unearned trust in, and it hurts the most. So I've just always been a little bit sensitive to that. I'm working on it. Probably won't ever change, but there's too many charlatans in the community in this YouTube space. Outside this space, I don't run into this. I got young sons. I'm glad they don't even know what this is. And I do know that this is a small section of our community.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably like 5% of Black YouTubers that's in this space, that's doing this nonsense. And thank God, because I ask my sons all the time, like, I don't know what you're talking about, Pop.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hallelujah. That's my joy that they're out there in the real world doing real things, living like normal people. But in this space, it's a problem. And there's still, as I told Arshawn, there are young men who are coming into their adulthood that will walk into this. I don't know about young ladies. I don't try to speak to young ladies. As you said earlier, doing the gender thing, I would never talk to, I can't talk to, I'm not going to try to talk to women issues because at my age, I don't believe that's my space.
Mm.
But, because that's not my lived experience.
Mm-hmm.
But the young men that come into this space, I hear them being fed information that's woefully wrong, woefully harmful. And I see it being sold to them to make money. So I'm trying to speak. When me and Arshawn initially got together, it's like, let's just tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
What's so hard about it? All I want is a space of, if I can expect honesty at the grocery store, why can't I turn on a channel? It don't have to be funny. It don't have to, just be basically honest. These people are telling just demonstrable untruths. It's like, this is not even wiggle room. Mm-hmm. Oh, the sky's purple. Come on, we're not going to have a conversation about that. Mm-hmm. That's the utter insanity. And they're selling it. They really are selling information like that. And that's what I'm trying to counter. That's what I'm trying to fight. And we want to talk about something other than relationships. Mm-hmm. I swear to God, I didn't think we'd do anything but talk. I'm sick of it. These people are uncredentialed and unqualified to talk about these topics. Too many people in this space are speaking of topics they're not qualified to speak about. So they need to be quiet. And I'm talking about anybody in particular. If I bring up, I told Arshawn I want to do a political engagement topic. Not about whether you're Republican or Democrat. Why are we not more engaged civically at the local level?
Yeah.
Crickets.
Where it really matters.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, crickets. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to talk about that. Mm-hmm. I mean, volunteerism. I want to do a topic about why don't more Black people volunteer? You can volunteer at a Black organization. I'm not talking about the white stuff. We need it locally. Mm-hmm. Cricket. They don't want to talk about that. Those are the conversations that I think we need to be more engaged and more involved, because that's what will help us move further.
We rather believe the lie than believe the truth.
Thank you.
Because
it's easier, and we'd have to unpeel a lot of things that's ugly that we don't want. The stuff that we continue to sweep up under the rug in our communities and hold the finger over our mouth and go, shh, don't talk about that.
Must talk about.
That's us.
And we don't need to beat each other up about or tear each other down, but have an honest heart-to-heart conversation. Because even when I have those conversations, I feel no shame because I know that those conversations exist in other communities. I don't need to go and talk about it. I need to talk about it in my community and not be shamed about it. So when I get upset because Black men don't want to accept the levels of problems that when we talk about people romanticize the past, I'm like, we had high levels of DV back in the 60s and the 50s, and people, it's a romance. And like, no, it wasn't. It wasn't. And knock it off, and let's have an honest conversation about the levels of what you beautiful Black sisters had to go through, what my mother had to go through in 1939. That's the conversation, and I don't like to sugarcoat it because it's telling us a lie.
I think to speak to what you said and I'm coming to you, Arshawn, Um, uh, just to speak to what you both just said, the truth. As Mama OG Patrice, Mama Patrice was speaking, I automatically was just like, yeah, because if you were to accept the truth, then you will have to do something about it. And I think oftentimes that's a part of it. I also want us to know, to understand that accepting the truth would actually drive some people insane. Some people are literally protecting their own sanity because the truth is too unbearable, right? We have to understand that everyone does not have the same mental fortitude. You may have it, I may have it, everyone does not. You know, a lot of people went through a lot of like really deep, dark, things during the pandemic, just being isolated, just being away from family and friends and so forth. Like, we all are not functioning at the same mental capacity. So when you say, I agree, the truth, but we also have to understand how difficult it is for some people to just accept the truth. Because what you're asking me to do is to unravel myself. And I don't know how to do that without completely losing myself. So some people are afraid of that. And I'm very aware of that there are people, we look at people and we think they're fine. We look at each other and we think each other is fine. And literally 5 minutes ago, somebody was contemplating suicide. And this is why in these spaces, whether it's online or offline, for me, if I'm in a relationship with a Black man, if I'm friends with a Black woman and friends with a Black man, if I have Black family members and we are interacting, right? Any level of intimacy, I am to assume that they are dealing with something, period. Period. I don't understand the expectations that we are discussing in these spaces between men and women, right? And talking about Black women like Black women have ever had these luxuries that we keep talking about. And I'm like, no, I think you guys are talking about white women.
Yes.
We've never had those luxuries that you guys are discussing. What are you talking about? Right? So wait, and the other piece is Black women coming into the space and having these expectations of our men that they've never, you know how long Black men have been called boys? You know how long? And then it wasn't too long ago, and there's still people that still do it in certain parts of this country. Do we understand? Do you understand that the lack of access to their own autonomy, to sovereignty? I mean, we are having these conversations through the lens of people who have the power. And we think that we can show up in our relationships the way they do. But we don't understand that even in their relationships and in their intimacy, they are functioning from a place of privilege that we do not have. So we have to begin to have a different type of conversation.
Yes.
We have to have conversations, right, that align, that are within the context that we found ourselves historically in this country. Stop talking about our, like I said the other day, we are allowing people to minimize or to reduce our story to stats.
Come on, you little bitch.
To stats, because we think quoting stats makes us look smarter. We're not getting to the root of why this is happening at such a high rate. We don't want to talk about that. We just want to talk about it's just happening at a high rate, and we don't understand that we are actually spewing racist rhetoric. Because when you start focusing on stats alone and say, you know what you begin to say? There's something innately wrong with Black people. We are just innately dumber. This is why we're not performing. Because now we're extracting the number from the experience. We're pulling it out of its historical context so that we could push a narrative. And we do the collective a disservice. So for me, I'm like, we need to change how we're having these conversations. Because we are not those other people. We don't hold the power those other people hold right now. So we don't get to show up the way they do. In fact, trying to show up the way they do will cost us our life. But we wanna be out here playing around. This is not a game. We are in a state of emergency. This is not a game. And I don't care where we find ourselves. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I've never had a Twitter, but Twitter, shout out to Twitter. Wherever spaces we find ourselves, we cannot afford to be on there playing, because everything that is used against us is used for another people's survival. Every tool is towards their advancement. And we're using the same tools to do what? To destroy each other. How? Or to expand their cause, to advance their cause. We don't even realize how we're being used as tools. I'm watching these spaces, and I'm watching these Black women in these spaces, and I'm very careful with the sisters, because I really believe women should talk to women and men should talk to men. But I'm looking at some of our sisters in these spaces, and I say, you don't even realize that you're being used as a tool right now. You are being weaponized against probably the only men. Not all of them, but the only men who are probably going to show up for you when it really gets done and dirty. Because at the end of the day, it's about somebody else's survival. And we are out here playing games. We don't want to come off the field. We don't want to sit and talk and have serious conversations, like OG said, the things that really matter. It's not a game. It's not a game. This is not just YouTube. Because when you come in here, and you know what, I talked about it, my sister would say what my nephew said. Because they're listening. What are you saying? What are you spewing out there? Are you a tool in the hands of the enemy? Are you being used as a tool in the hands of the enemy, and you think you're doing something? You feel big. Your ego is big now because you told a Black man about himself. You feel better about yourself because you told a Black woman about yourself. Why don't you go face off with the real enemy and then come talk to me? I digress again. Ashan?
Can I just ask you one question?
Because I wasn't following that.
No, I'm not going to follow it either. I just want to ask you.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ashan.
Because can I ask you one question, Hanifa?
Yes.
Because the only thing I say is, and I agree with you, I empathize that maybe it's too traumatic for some people. But I'm just speaking of the solution.
Yes.
If we're not honest with ourselves about ourselves, how can we expect to get a solution? That's all I'm questioning. So even if it only takes some of us to face up to the music, to say, look, you who can't handle it, I get it. But we can't get to a solution of a problem if we don't really, because I agree with you. Black women and Black men, we don't show up in spaces the way that white people do because of the trauma that we've been through and the experiences and the oppression and the history. But we have to be honest about the things that was done to us by others and things that we done to ourselves. And until we own and unpack it all, we're not doing anything. Right now, we look too much at what is done to us. I include that shit every day, but I cannot continue to ignore the harm that we've done to each other that was beaten to us and bred into us and taught into us, because we need to talk about that as well. And we need to stop saying, whether it was my father that beat my mother, who, if he did, it's not all his fault, but that's part of the experience. And I can't go, as much as I love my father, oh, he was perfect. No, I'm trying to fix not the past, but the future.
Yeah.
And I have to look at all of it to fix that. I cannot fix the future if I don't acknowledge all of that. I'm sorry for being so angry and passionate about it. And if I'm jaded enough to be able to deal with, I don't think that if I ignore that, then what am I fixing? I'm building a house of cards on sand. I'm not building it on a proper foundation, because the past matters for the future.
Yes, yes.
Not the past that they freaking tell us, but the past that we know. We pass an oral history. It ain't in the damn books. It's passed down family by family by family. And most Black people know it. We know our history. Stop ignoring it because it's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable. Yeah.
The present is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable in 2022.
You know, Rico.
Sorry.
So I'm going. No, it's okay. I'm gonna go to Ashan because he's peacefully waiting. All I'm simply saying, and Amos Wilson talks a lot about this. Neely Fuller. There's a lot of our scholars who have spoken about this. Everything that we use, everything that we come in, every tool that we have at our disposal, whether it's education, right? If we're on these platforms, whatever that is, it should be used towards the betterment of our people. Because the reality is that everything that somebody else has, tools or whatever, they are using it for their own advancement. So why are we not doing the same? So go ahead, Ashan. So the question was, what would you like to see different in this space, and what have you done in bringing that in, manifesting that?
Now, may I take a little point of privilege?
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to answer the question in my closing statement, if that's okay. Because y'all said some stuff I really want to touch on before I head out. So, what you guys are talking about, you're right, Rico. You can't fix anything that you're not aware of. I think that's the first thing. You can't fix a problem you're not, willing to face. But Hanifa's also right. Some people are not able to face it. Like, you can't handle the truth. Like, some people truly can't. And we had this conversation, Hanifa, I promise you. Me and Rico had this conversation about someone else. And we're like, sometimes people have an emotional trauma that makes them block out certain things that they've gone through. So some truths are even hidden from yourself by yourself for your own protection.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So some people are not capable of handling every truth. I go back to Plato's allegory of the caves all the time. Like, there are different levels of awareness. And when you try to reach back to somebody that's not at your level, what you're saying doesn't even make sense to them. So like when you hear OG Patrice and all these people talking about how dire the situation, and he said, man, we don't have time to play. But I do. I go to the bar or I go to the park and I shoot some hoops. And you know what I'm saying? So I can't see the dire situation that you guys see.
Okay.
So I can't fix the problem because I don't even see the problem.
Gotcha.
So we have to reframe our conversation to awaken people to a different reality. And I know the red pill uses the matrix a lot. So there has to be a casual, slow prodding of people towards the truth. Because if you rip them out, it can be too cataclysmic for them. You have to pull them with questions so that they think on their own towards the truth. You have to incline them towards the truth through gentle, because the best way to wake somebody up is gently. If you jar somebody awake, you might get socked. They might start kicking. They might start screaming. You have no idea what the reaction is. So on a practical level, yes, you want people to get the truth, but you cannot force them there. I wanted to speak also to what
I received that. I received that. And I hear that. That's a really good point, Ashan. The point of questions, asking questions so that they can come to the truth through their own.
Yeah.
Yes, I like that. Go ahead. Sorry.
I think they say like the Socratic method. You know what I'm saying? You have to ask questions that guide them towards something, because telling people, they're only going to listen to some of it. But if they come to the conclusions on their own, they're more invested in the answer because they came to that conclusion. So what Mahada said about decolonizing our thoughts, I had this experience just yesterday. I promise. Like, as much as people like, oh, Rashawn, you're a genius. You're a genius. I was reading a book called now I forget the name of the book. See how smart I am. What my teacher didn't tell me. I believe that might be the name of the book. What my teacher never told me, what my teacher didn't tell me. I was reading that book, and it's about things they didn't teach us in school, rewritten histories and things like that. And they were talking about a section about smart people. And immediately in my head, like, people go, oh, Rashawn, you're a genius. I was like, if I was so smart, I'd be rich. The very next line in the book says, and if you aren't, society has conditioned people to think that poor people aren't intelligent. So that they say, if you aren't rich, you aren't smart. And I was like, oh, shoot, I just said it in my own head. and then the book's telling me what I was going to say. So even me, as smart as I think I am, I even have the conditioning and the blinders of a different culture that's been put upon me. You know, the programming is deep in us, and it's hard. Like excuse me, my aunt said, you have to unpack all of that. Why do you think the things you think? Why do you feel a way about things? We were programmed to feel. Even the N word, we have a trigger with the N word that was taught to us. It's just us. It's just a combination of sounds, like every other word. Why doesn't the word what trigger you? Somebody conditions you to respond to the N word as an emotional thing. So I
Wait,
had
wait,
to
wait.
unpack.
Let me interject there. 1 minute. Now, I will say this about the N word. I don't allow the N word to be used in my on my platform because I understand the history of it. Um, I understand that it is very extremely demoralizing and offensive to my brothers and sisters, right? Now, I want to say about the emotional attachment to it. I agree with you, Ashan. I don't have it. It's not there. And the reason why is because I do not come from an environment that it was used in. We didn't use the word. People don't use the word to each other in the island that I'm from. It's just not a thing. So I don't have the same emotional attachment, right? But because I'm a part of the Black collective and I understand the history of it, I am able to say, like my son, I could say to him, like he's 10. He brought it up the other day. He's not in an environment where he hears it all the time. We're not watching things that there's constantly using the word. So he was like, well, what is that? And that was a teaching moment for me right there, right? Because he's gonna go out into the world, right? And he's going to come into contact with the word, right? At some point. Whether it's somebody calling him it as a term of endearment, right? Or just calling him it to demean him, whichever one. But I use that just as a teacher, just to educate him on the word. But the emotional attachment, you are right. I don't have the emotional attachment to the word, but I know better than to say to an African American who does that they shouldn't make a big deal out of it. I know better than to do that. I'm very careful in communicating that, even though I don't have that same reaction to it. Do you get what I'm saying? I hope, yeah.
Right. And
Go ahead.
again,
Maybe you could,
like,
if you wanted to say something, you could jump in after Ashan. Go ahead.
yeah, definitely, and that's why I even said the N word, even though I don't care about it. I am aware of people's sensitivities to it. See, your awareness doesn't have to make you ignorant. Like you're supposed to have a deep,
Okay.
like once, like I said the N word because I understand everybody's not where I am, which goes back to the original point of having grace, because everybody's not where you are. Everybody doesn't come to the truth at the same time. So I get that we all have different cultural experiences, environmental experiences, but that's why I was getting to was that doesn't have to be the way if you examine it. But until you get to that point where you're not bound to it, you're still there. So I'm not going to trigger you because just to be provocative or to prove a point. I shouldn't also use my point where I'm at. I shouldn't use where I'm at as a weapon against where you're at. Because again, that's another one of those hierarchies I talked about earlier. We create those well, you're not where I am. You're not as developed as me. You're still bound by da da da. I don't want to do that to anybody either. And to
Okay,
another
so wait, stop 1 minute. If I can hold, because I want JP, I think you want to speak to this, and then I'm going to let Ashan finish. Is that okay? Ashan, is that okay? Because I don't want you to, because I know you're going to go into your closing. So I wanted her to respond first, and then go ahead,
Well,
JP.
yeah, I wanted to say that I'm in agreement with Arshawn and you on the idea that people still have an attachment to the word, but I
Right.
do just want to push back a little bit on the idea that it's something that I mean, we are indoctrinated to it, but I don't think that is from a feelings standpoint, emotional standpoint. Injustices that go unresolved over generations have a way of being tattooed on more than just your feelings or emotions in that way. If you are a spiritual person, your ancestors will tell you, hey, it's a little bit deeper than that. I always think of it in the sense that I don't use the word. I try not to be around folks who do, but I give them grace because at the end of the day, if they look like us, their life could be taken and that be the last word that they hear. So, hey, outside of that, I expect people to respect the cultural norm, as Hanifa stated, and know, I don't mean to put it this way, but for lack of a better way of putting it, know your space. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to come up here, even though you may be 420 friendly, I'm not going to ask you and all that jazz. I'm going to just turn my camera off, mind my business, say something silly in the chat. That's, later on we could talk about it, but we have to be able to, be aware of our surroundings and not seek out attention, no matter the cost, just because we think it's going to, get us to our next step.
Okay. I sorry, Ashan. I didn't want to. Yeah, but go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay, but that's the sensitivity we have to the word that everybody has to couch it. Like, but like we got to make sure we. So I mean, but that's how sensitive the word is.
Yes.
But that's why it's also so important to get the awareness of it, because that's how sensitive the word is. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, that's how important it is. So to a point you have made, we also need to quit spending time identifying problems that we aren't willing to investigate the cause of. Like you talked about how why are women like this? Why are women like this? Well, if you're not willing to actually look at the root cause, you shouldn't even speak on it. If something exists, there's a reason for it. So we have to
Yeah.
love each other enough to find the illness and stop discussing all of the symptoms and demonizing us for that.
Good point.
And to speak, you pointed at me at some point, like verbally. You said something, and I felt all kinds of guilt. I had to recalibrate in this online space because I was one of the people criticizing from the chat. You said I had my troll, bro. I
Troll.
man, it was terrible. So I was one of the people trying to control platforms. Like, you need to do this, you need from the chat. And I was like, I had to recognize when I had a blow up that I was like, you know what? This isn't my platform. I don't need to make them be the way I want them to be. They're fully okay being who they are. And that's fine. I just need to find somewhere else to go. And that's the learning I had to do within myself. And then secondarily, even the troll thing. The troll thing, Hanifa called me trolling the other. Hanifa always catches me trolling. So if I'm trolling, Hanifa pops up. I promise you. So even the person I was trolling, I was doing that because they said some very provocative, inflammatory stuff. And I just wanted to see if they could handle being provoked too. And they did, but then I had to think about it. It's not my job to pressure test anybody. It's not my job to make sure that you can live up to your own energy. I was like, so I mean, even still, we're all still developing and have further to grow and go. And to wind up, to answer, finally get to the question, to finally get to your question, Hanifa,
That's okay.
what I plan to do in this space, the utility of this YouTube space has been showing me a broader spectrum of the Black community. What our identities are, what our thoughts are, beliefs, how we operate, has shown me, and that's a greater spectrum than I would have seen in my real life. Where in real life, typically we kind of stay towards like socioeconomic levels and educational levels and religious backgrounds. We kind of stay kind of in a smaller bubble in our real lives. People that we grew up with in our community, it's not a wide spectrum as far as rich, poor, well spoken, not so well spoken, Caribbean, African. But I get a great diversity in this YouTube space. I mean, everybody's just a few clicks away from all across the world. I mean, I love that because I've seen so many things I would never have seen other than going and traveling to all these places. And I'll never have the money to do that. So that YouTube space, having that diversity of thought has helped me. So my plans for this space, and I'm afraid of the plan, but I see a low cost of entry method to actually create like a university, like a place to teach and impart wisdom, and not just like the panel discussions, but I want to give practical instruction. I don't want to do it myself. So that's the part. I would have to network, which is a challenge of mine. I have a hard time reaching out to people. So I
Me
also
too.
see,
Me too, Ashan.
and even being up on panels,
Yeah.
like this has all been a part of me trying to challenge my comfort zones. So, and I feel that's the next step, is for me to not just show up, but then to like kind of grow up and go out to reach out to people and build something. So I feel like that's the way I'm supposed to go. I'm afraid of it and I don't want to do it, but that's what I plan to do with the space. And to close, I just want to thank you for having me up here. I hold everyone that's been up here, my aunt and JP who just dropped off, in very high esteem. It's a pleasure to be able to exchange knowledge and grow from what I get from you all.
Thank you, Arshawn. And I think the book that you were referencing is Lies My Teacher Told Me. That's it? Okay, Lies My Teacher Told Me. Okay. I'm going to have to look into that book. But I'm going to, before we wrap up, I just want to say that I just really just want us to be better as individuals, and then be better or thrive to be better, because I don't think that this is going to happen for us overnight. So every day that we get up, every opportunity we get, every chance we get to the to the breath of life, use that opportunity to better ourselves and then join with other people so that we can better the collective, right? Use everything that is at our disposal to do so. There is, and it's not about being serious all the time, because I am not serious all the time. The people in my life knows that. I talk a lot of smack, y'all, okay? A lot. But when it comes to us being so far behind and thinking that we just have all this time, to progress and to advance and so forth, and using every opportunity and using the tools that are at our disposal to fight each other, to actually turn these things into weapons against each other, it's really disheartening. It's heartbreaking to watch. But for me, what I decided to do is I quickly realized I cannot go into Mama Patrice's house and say, you need to move your couch closer to the window so that I could be comfortable. Now, Mama Patrice's couch been there for how many years? Just as comfortable as ever. And I decide I'm going to come into her house and say, you need to move your couch over here just so I could be comfortable, right? You know how some people have rules hang up in their house? This is what we do in this house. I come into the house and I go against those rules, and then they ask me to leave and I'm mad about it. You didn't follow the rules. When we talk about accountability, if there is a standard in place, then accountability can happen. But a lot of times we don't have any standards. We're just out there just willy-nilly having conversations, disrespecting each other. Okay? So I learned very quickly that I cannot go into somebody's house, somebody's platform, and ask them to accommodate me out of thousands of people, okay, that they have watching, or hundreds of people, or whatever amount of people. But what I can decide to do is say, like Arshawn just said, this is what I want to see. We are creators. We are innovative people, like Rico said. This is who we are as a people. I do not understand why we try to act like we're not creative people, not innovative, not progressive. We are all of these things. So if you come into a space and this is all you're seeing, and you want to bring something, if you want to see something different, then bring it, or find someone who is bringing it, because not everyone wants to be on camera, right? Not everyone wants to. And Arshawn, I'm with you. I have a hard time reaching out and connect. I really do. I know you guys may not believe it, but I do. I'm a type of person that I kind of like to hold my corner, like we say where I'm from. I like to hold my own corner and do my own thing. And no, I'm so serious. I don't know if that's like the Aries in me. I don't know, but I do want to kind of like utilize like how I'm here every Friday. One of the things I'm trying to do is like do like a Friday, kind of like go to different platforms that I respect and come up and have conversations. I want to do more of that. I know when I was on Conversations with King, which is kind of was my nudge, because I've been thinking about having a YouTube space, but connecting with King is he's the one that kind of nudged, like just do it, and then watching all of them kind of doing their thing, it kind of like inspired me, like, okay, girl, just turn the camera on, and And as I go forward, I'm still creating my space. I'm still trying to figure out what type of space, and I feel like it's happening organically. You know what I mean? And I'm just kind of like participating with it. um and everyone on this panel I respect. Like I've spoken to Mama Patrice more than once, and I've seen her in many panels, and she just reminds me of a general. You know what I mean? uh and so I have a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect for Ashan and his thinking. Ashan is not a surface based thinker, and I tend to function the same way. And so he resonates with me from day one, even though he was our first interaction, he was trolling. Rico, he was trolling. That's how we met. Okay, in the most brilliant way, by the way, but he was still trolling. And Rico, I know that Rico rawness. Like I grew up around men like Rico. I grew up around people like Rico, just very straightforward, very raw. It's just going to tell it the way, but also still respectful, right? And so even JP, I love what JP's doing. I love the way JP thinks. I love the way that she perceives the world. My aunt, like, there's a lot of people in these spaces that I respect, and even if they have a platform that I may not align with, you're not going to see me tearing them down. I'm just not going to do it. You know what I mean? But I just want to see us do better. That's all. And this is why I wanted to come and talk about accountability today. I think all you guys contributed really good points to the conversation. I have a lot to even think about. Rico convinced me the importance of speaking up when something out of order is being said.
Like me, like myself, right? I tell Arshawn all the time, I need to be checked. Don't let me just opine and bloviate. Tell me, Rico, shut up. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard for me in these spaces because I've been subscribing to Pan-African philosophy or way of thinking since I was like 12, 13 years old. Very, very young. My consciousness coming into my awareness as far as my Black awareness. I grew up in that. You know what I mean? I was surrounded by that like all the time. And then, I come from a culture that's heavily influenced by the Rastafari movement, which promotes Black consciousness, which promotes Garveyism. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I've always been around it. So I know that my level of self-awareness, but I'm also aware that everyone is not me and everyone didn't grow up like that, right? And everyone does not have that information and that knowledge and the experience as well. I'm aware of that. So I try to show grace, but in these conversations, I just want to see more conversations around building versus arguing. And the Rastafari. Danny, I'm sorry. Danny came in here like I'm sorry because usually I would be like Rastafari, right? And I hesitated even because I'm on YouTube. But anyway, that's funny. I'm sorry. But I just want when we in these spaces, Patrice, I need to learn more about ADOS. Maybe we'll have a conversation about that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
You know what? And I just want to say thank you too, because I just realized this is my first time up on your panel. I've been in your chat many times and I always, give my greetings and salutations in passing. But I appreciate you letting me come on your platform and speaking on this topic and giving my opinions and views. If I had to close with anything, I always try to give our people something really to think about, because I think sometimes we don't realize, because things not affecting us directly,
Yeah.
that it don't affect us in an indirect way as a whole, as a culture, as a people. But listen, guys, we see what's going on in the world around us, right? Which is way bigger than what's going on in these YouTube spaces with these
Yes.
wars and disrespect. But we have to realize one thing, because we continuously allow ourselves to get distracted by the wrong things and don't focus on the things that we really should be fighting for, and not and whatever that is for you, get real about it, but do it in real time, in real life, boots on the ground with the shit, and just don't be up here with talking points on
Yeah.
everybody's channel, talking this and that, just to hear yourself talk.
Mm-hmm.
I say that to say nobody is taking America serious. We are the laughing freaking stocks of every other country. We are the weakest link, people.
Mm.
And guess what? Within that weakest link of this country, guess what race of people is the weakest link? We are.
Yep.
We are. Let's
Mhm.
get it together. Let's realize that and do what we got to do to get better about ourselves. It starts in our homes and then in our communities. I've been in this space for over a year now, and it's still the same stuff,
Mm.
Can I
same
ask?
conversations.
Mm.
It's like, God damn it, we ain't ready for the revolution. God damn it, whether it's in person or televised, we ain't ready for it.
Patrice, can I ask you like how close you are to launching? Because I know you're supposed to be
Arizona.
doing a channel, and I want to know how close you are to launching your channel because I want to be there.
Oh, you are?
I mean, I want to be there to support 100,000%, 10 toes down. You know. Come on, sis. You know we the
Put your
same age. I
Yes,
want to
yes. We
be
come from
there.
the same generation.
That's it. I want to be there.
Put your email in the chat, and I'm going to send you information.
Yeah, I don't want to miss that. That's all I wanted to ask. I don't want to miss coming out, supporting, showing up, and being educated. Because we know we are the same education. Like I said, the whole ADOS thing, the FBA, whatever. It's like no matter what generation you are, so many of us are disconnected from the people who are on the front lines doing the fighting. And I know I'm not always on the front line, even though I support the people on the front lines. And people, even when the people sit there and talk about the organizations that are funded by white, I'm like, there's still black organizations. I'd rather be in a half a fight than no
ADOS is
fucking
not
fight.
funded by white
But
people.
not you, not Adolf. Adolf. I know you was educating me
Yeah.
the other night about
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
CBC and so forth. And I
Oh
don't
yeah.
even disparage them because I say that's a half a fight. Shit, it's better than y'all sitting on the corner doing nothing.
I get it. Yeah,
That's all.
We just don't need them steering the ship for us.
Right.
Oh,
Steering
yeah.
the wheel for us.
But
You know,
right.
because
But what
that's
I
what they
say,
tend to do: come in the spaces and then co-opt them, and then it
Yes.
becomes their
Yeah.
movement. And that's what ADOS is absolutely not allowing to happen. And we do have some Caucasian persuasion allies and supporters. But yeah, we're steering this wheel like we got control of it. But Rico, too, to say to you, I want to thank you if I didn't say it before, because I remember when I first came to this space several months ago, when I first talked about ADOS, and I was on someone's platform, and I didn't even know you, and you came up because people was coming at me and want to speak negatively, and you came up, and I appreciate that, because that's a part of a chivalry of a grown man coming up to have a woman's back without even knowing her. So it's just like having, like, you would have saw me and I would have been struggling with my bags of grocery trying to
Yeah.
walk across the street, and you want to make sure I don't get hit by a car, and you
Yeah.
helping me with my bags across the street. See, that's where I thought of it like that. And we don't have that anymore in a lot of these spaces, right? The
Yeah.
chivalry, you can do it in the roundabout way. So I want to thank you for that, brother, because I did not forget that, and I don't know if I ever got a chance to tell you that. But
no,
I
thank you,
want to
because
say thank you.
that's my single mother with 5 kids and 4 baby daddies that I hate they talk about in the streets. That's how we were raised. That's how
Right
we were
on.
raised. So thank
Right
you.
on.
I mean, that's so I like you're not going to crap on my people. It's unnecessary. I'm unambiguously, unapologetically black. It's nothing to brag about. It's just what we are. And I, as a black man, don't need a celebration because my mama raised me that that's just what you freaking do.
This is one thing that I wish we quit doing. Quit
Stop.
downing the people that look like you that's out here doing the work. Quit
Yes.
with the combative, argumentative, negativity, condon tone, all of that, because it remind me so much of, I realize now, while I said this before, why our sister soldier gave up on our people a long time ago.
Thank you.
I went to her last speech in New York when she was talking, to hear her speech when she was leaving, because she's now a best-selling author. And people were asking her why
Mm-hmm.
was she changing her tune. And she said, I'm tired of fighting my people.
There it is.
She said, our people will wear you out. She said, I'm tired.
But
We are the enemy, is what I'm saying. Sometimes we are the enemy. So I tell people, when people are like, oh, I don't have, I'm not saying you have to support it. I'm saying, how hard is it for you just to get the out the way? That's it. If you don't want to support it, you don't have to, but you should not be in opposition. That's all.
Well, I see your point though, Rico, but I also think, just to that point, and I'm going to wrap up because I got to go, but I think just to speak to your point, I agree with the both of what y'all are saying. And the boots on the ground, like, if you're on here, you should be connected to something outside of this space in some capacity, honestly. I think every Black person should. I think every Black person should be connected to, even if it's a small community of like-minded people, period. Okay, so that if some ish goes down, you guys can get together, whatever that is. You guys should be building some sort of community around Black betterment and progression in general, right? But to what Rico, what you were saying, I think that you call them being in the way, but they actually see themselves as progressive. Like, there are a lot of us who not a lot of us, but a lot of Black people who really feel like we don't need to really be thinking or talking about history. We've heard it in this space be said that it's called the Victim Olympics. Like, we've heard many conversations around that. Black people just need to be focused on the bag and nothing else. They don't see themselves as in the way. And by the way, that archetype, that particular energy has always been with us. You know that. Like, it's always going to be there, right? You're gonna always have, those are the people, when people bring up yes, ancestors or the ancestors in Africa, some of them sold us into slavery. Those are the people getting at the bag. They have always existed. They have always existed. That's going to always be there. And I think what we need to do, I think the quicker we accept that fact, the quicker we could be about focusing and taking care of business. Because I think it becomes a distraction after a while, focusing on these people and what they need to do and what they're not doing. They will always be there. Always. You're always going to have someone within the community or the collective that's going to be contrarian, that's going to look and say, I don't think that's the direction we should go in. They're always going to exist. I think that what we need, the conclusion or the census that needs the consensus we need to come to is, what do we do about them? I think that's what needs to come out, that we need to establish. When that happens, what do we do as a collective about them? But that's where splits happen. It happens in churches too, where you have a bunch of churches that started off under one denomination, right? And it's like, no, that's not what the scripture says. So this group goes over this way, and then that group goes, and then you have all kinds of different denominations. That's what that comes from. So these things are always going to be with us. I don't necessarily think they're not going anywhere. I think that when we encounter them, it's important what we do when we encounter it, right? So it's like, and since our people love Christianity, I'm not a Christian, but what the thing that I go back to all the time is where some people had came to Jesus. I used to be a Christian, and just put that out there. Had came to Jesus and they were complaining about John the Baptist's disciples, and saying that these disciples are pretty much out there spreading the John the Baptist doctrine, and paraphrasing. And Jesus pretty much said to them, if they are not fighting against our cause, then leave them alone. Because if they're just expanding, they're expanding our cause and they're still spreading the same message of love and whatever else, they're not my problem. It's the ones who are deliberately standing in the way and countering. Those are people who we have to count as enemies. Our enemies look like us too.
Well,
Some
they
of our
always
enemies
have
look
since the
like us.
beginning
Go
of the
ahead,
time.
OG.
No, I'm sorry.
You
They
fine.
always have since the beginning of the time. I mean, we had enemies that looked like us. That I
Yes.
remember, it was a black woman that put that knife in Martin Luther King. Thank God he survived. I mean, it was black people that infiltrated in the Black Panthers. It was black people that infiltrated in the MOVE organization in Philadelphia in the 80s. It's happened to us so many times. It's always been people like us. It's either we sell out for the oppressor, or either we just want to come in and create chaos ourselves just because we don't want to see anything strive in our communities. So either way, we've always been the culprit
Yes.
in our own destruction.
Yeah.
Because at
That's
some point, if you continue to keep selling out, you can't even blame the oppressor anymore because you allowed it to happen.
Yep. And that's where I'm at, Mama Patrice. I tell people all the time, there is a place where those energies or that the enemy does not enter into without your consent. Okay, and that is your home. There is no person to blame for the chaos in your house. The information that goes into your home, you have control over that, whether it's through the television. I'm talking about your home environment. When you step outside of that door, that's a different story. And I'm just like, where you start building community is the community of your family in your house. That's where it begins. Like we cannot depend on these people to educate our people towards their own liberation. It's not going to happen, So there's a lot of things that we could do. So I'm with you, Mama Patrice, where we just can't blame on somebody else. You know what I mean? Like, you trying to get to the bag at the end of the day, so you're willing to sell out whoever you need to sell out to get to the bag by any means necessary. That's what it boils down to. That's nobody's fault. They dangled something before your eyes, but if it wasn't in you, the desire for that thing, you cannot be tempted by it. There's a lot of things that I see that I have no palate, no appetite for, and it does not bother me. But then there are those things that I might be like, ooh, I want some of that cake, something, because there's something inside of me. That's how I see it at the end of the day. So we are responsible for our own actions as people in this country. A lot of us are aware and we're still choosing to do the wrong thing. Like, we're aware and we're still going counter to that awareness and that consciousness. And to be honest, that's on us. That's on nobody else. That's how I see that. So personal accountability first, since the topic was accountability. Personal accountability first before we start discussing collective accountability. We don't even have personal accountability in these spaces, and we want to hold the collective accountable. Not going to happen. Okay, so anyway, I want to wrap up, and I thank you guys for being here with me. This was a great conversation. I think this is the longest I've been on thus far.
Thank you. Yeah,
And
thank you so much.
you guys are welcome here at any time. I'm sure I'm going to be calling on you guys. I put my email address. Rico, I wrote down your email address as well.
Hold on. I have you guys too. Let me put mine back here right quick.
Please, yes. And I put mine's in the back. Let me see. And please, Mama Patrice, about that channel, let us know. We will definitely come and support. And I'm probably going to be calling on you to have a conversation around the whole ADOS thing. Because to be honest with you, and I know it's FBA and then ADOS, like some of the stuff I've been seeing in the streets, because you got to remember, I am a Caribbean woman, right?
Yes,
and some of the conversations that I've been hearing, I've kind of been turned off from, like, what is up with the division?
Yeah. It's a war going on a little bit between the FBA and African.
Patrice, I'm not
crazy.
turned off by either of it. I can't distinguish the difference. So from my perspective, I support both, because I support any organization that's about the improvement or the investment or the advancement of the people of the diaspora. So if you coming from the left and you FBA and you coming from the right and you ADOS and both of y'all are going after the same enemy, I'm good.
Right. It's basically the same thing. Tariq just split from ADOS and have FBA, but it's the same. We the same people.
It sounds like the same thing to me. That's why I was like, I don't get it. But you know what? I'm not getting in the mess. I want to be educated. That's it. I'll put 5 over here. I'll put 5 over there because I'm, as they say, about Black people winning everywhere.
So I have a lot of questions, Patrice. So I'll look out for an email from me because I'll be inviting you on because I have a lot of questions.
Okay.
and
no problem. Thank you for having me.
Yes. All right.
Any idea when you think you're going to launch?
I don't know. I'm gonna
email you.
I'm rushing.
I'm gonna email you about some things. You know, I will say this because I've said it before. I am under a contract right now with a major television station. You guys, and with
don't mess your bag up.
With the stuff that I see, I can't make them look bad in a light, and that's in my contract. So. Things happen on panels that sometimes you have no control over, and when I'm on panels, it's like, nah, I can't. You know what I mean? I can't risk that. So
yes,
can't risk that bad.
Sis, don't bring my messy ass until you cash that check. Because I'll mess it up for you. Oh Lord, I got Rico on here. I'm gonna blow the bag.
All right. All right, guys. Thank you guys for coming.
I love you, sis. I
love you all too.
Love you guys.
Much love.
Thank you guys for tuning in, and until next time, peace and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Peace.
Love you, Hanifa. Thank you, darling.
Thank you.